Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Kingdom of Rizia. So, in the last episode, I deposed Rico Torres. I finally got tired of his whatever that was going on down there. And we turned around and deposed him, and we placed Manus Sazon and his family back in control. Specifically, Manus Sazon's mother. We brought her back from exile, and we put the Sazons back in control of the area. So now, we have some allied blood, of course, on our side. However, there was a bit of a kerfuffle. Well, not really a kerfuffle. It's kind of worked out well for us. We managed to turn around and get our daughter to turn around and marry the Duke of Palais, Axel Reinhardt. He turned around and wanted a marriage, and we somehow managed to get that going. It was completely by accident. I honestly did not mean to turn around and do that. But hey, it worked out in the end. Everything is fine. So there we are. So now we have little things that we got going on. I think we have a meeting with the Republic of Wayland. What else do we have? A secret meeting with Manus Sazon in order to turn around and get this constitution going so we can get some freedom in Rizia, because, that's what we want. And I think we have some other outlying reports going on. Okay, we already read that before, so we don't need to read that again. Let's just go ahead and click on this just to get it out of the way. However, we are kind of in some dire straits because, of course, we don't have any budget coming in. We have negative budget coming in. Then we turn around and we do have plenty of authority coming in. So hopefully we can work something out with this money and get something going because, it's not looking too good right now. I may just have to pass a royal decree if I can just to get some stuff going. Small second global energy sale. Yeah, I may have to turn around and do that just to get enough budget to not die at the end of this. Because I don't know what the consequences are, but I'm pretty sure if you don't have all the budget by the end of the turn, there are negative consequences for it. What those are, don't know. But yeah. Need 1 authority, 4 energy, but it gives me 2 budget. I do not have 4 energy. Well, that sucks. And what else do we got? Meh. Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and do this now. So just in case I need 3 budget for something, I'll have it in play. Because usually whenever decisions come up, I don't need authority right then and there. So at least in the events, I don't usually need authority. So I'll go ahead and get this small second global energy sale going. And I'll sell 2 energy because I'll get that right back. So no biggie. All right, so I have enough budget to turn around and get past the next turn. And hopefully, we'll be okay. So, and it didn't cost any authority. It just, that's right, it cost energy, of course. I'm being stupid, so. All right, so let's go ahead and see what this secret meeting has. It was late in the evening as I made my way downstairs to discuss our reform plans. I knew the perfect place in the palace to have this conversation. After I greeted Manus, I took him to the wine cellars below the royal kitchen. I flicked the switch hidden behind the bottles. The shelf rotated to reveal an opening in the wall, which led to a series of wooden staircases. I'd learned about this place from my father as a kid. It was a space that gave him the isolation he needed at times. Contrasting with the immaculate interior of the palace, this part of the palace seemed like it was abandoned. After going down the creaking stairs, we arrived in a cold, gloomy room with stone walls. There was a single table and a couple of chairs in the middle. The only spot of color was a pale blue pocket square on the floor. I picked it up and I noticed it was embroidered with the initials MM. Does someone else know about this location, Your Majesty? Nobody important. All right. We sat down. Your Majesty, this is a bold step. I cannot overemphasize how much I respect what you're trying to do. This will carve your name in the annals of history not as a monarch who clung to power, but as a visionary who saw beyond the crown. Oh, wait till next game. We're here to discuss how we're doing this. You don't need to butter me up. I'm not doing this for reputation or legacy. A monarch who gives his power away will not be remembered at all, but you, the reformer, will. If you say so, Your Majesty. So, Your Majesty, let's talk about the contents of the reform, so that we could start drafting it with the RPP. I want to go over the main point of discussion to get a sense of your perspectives and ideas first. Our main objective is to ensure the political participation of our citizens. This is only possible by limiting the monarch's power and enshrining it in the Constitution. Our country still resembles an absolute monarchy. Your father allowed the parliament to exist as a symbolic institution, and now we can give it the true authority it represents. This would mean the head of government will be an elected official, which can later be appointed by the head of state. They will lead a cabinet of ministers, sit as a member of the House, and will be acting as the leader of Rizian government on behalf of the monarch. After all, the constitutional monarch does not rule, Your Majesty, but they reign. I agree. The monarch should act as the head of state and not of the government. That's what we've been campaigning for. Firstly, the Constitution will define the House of Delegates as the lawmaking body in Rizia by describing their procedures and jurisdictions clearly. Instead of the monarch, they will be in charge of managing the government budget and pass laws. I have no problem with that. We can discuss the exact details later. Secondly, we must decide whether to keep the old regional structure in Rizia or centralize the system in Port Drazen completely. Reforming the regional structure is definitely a more complex problem, but centralizing the power may bring the wrath of the regional powers the houses established over the years. Yeah, we should probably still have the regional system. So I'm guessing what this means is that it's going to be similar to kind of how we have it here in the United States and such. And I'm also guessing that means that we will probably have it go by an electoral college as opposed to how it is in other countries where it's just a popular vote. Terrible here in the United States. So terrible. In a system that already has several branches of government and many actors, a decentralized structure will only bring instability. I support centralization. I'd rather not disturb the regional system. We should respect the autonomy of the regions and make sure each are represented fairly. I see. Respecting the regional tradition would be a clever choice. However, it raises important questions on how they will be structured in such a new system. We should respect the historical, financial, and demographical differences of the regions, especially the House and nobility. We need their collaboration if we want to change the system. Each region should function as a state and be allowed to exercise autonomy within the framework defined by the central government or the Constitution. Again, calling from the United States, it's not that great, honestly. Let's see. I guess I'm gonna go with this middle choice here. I don't know what this means, but yeah. We can offer the nobility something, I'm sure. Keeping the autonomy of the regions would make the central government share power and responsibility with the local governments. Oh, okay. So yeah, in a federal system such as this, having a second legislative body representing the regions might be ideal. We could form an upper house. So yeah, pretty much akin to the United States, the United Kingdom. I'm fairly sure just about every Western democracy pretty much has that type of system, a upper and a lower house, so on and so forth. So even though ours is completely useless, but yeah. I see your point. You might be right. He took some notes on a small notebook. And to ensure the Constitution is followed correctly, the judiciary must be given the right to seize executive and legislative actions that appear to be beyond their power according to the Constitution. The judiciary interprets, defends, and applies the law in the name of the state, and thus should be independent from other branches of government. I agree. Judicial independence serves as a safeguard for the rights and privileges provided by the Constitution. It should prevent the executive and legislative branches from encroaching upon those rights. I agree. The effectiveness of the law and the respect that people have for the law is dependent upon the judiciary's independence to make fair decisions. Politicizing it would only hurt the rule of law. Judiciary can't be too independent. There must be mechanisms to prevent their abuse of power. They can't lack accountability. So yeah, we do need something like that. Otherwise, we're going to get Swordland all over again. I don't disagree entirely, but the key is to achieve equilibrium between accountability and independence to ensure that justice is upheld. He stopped for a moment to think and went through his notes. I think we can make it work, Your Majesty. The RPP can write a draft that we can all agree to. But the problem will be forces against the democratic movement. The nobles, the police, the military. We have to be careful while the Constitution is being drafted. Nobody can intervene in the process until it's declared. His face turned extremely serious. I'll be honest with you. I'm fearful that House Azaro has the power to contest this by deeming it illegitimate and executing a power grab. Many officers of the law, as well as military personnel, are sympathetic, if not outright loyal, to the Azaro family. Tell me your honest opinion. Are they a threat? I can possibly try and handle Lucida. She and I are very close. If you can get her to support us, then we'd be clear on that front. We can offer to establish a House of Lords that can provide a balance to the elected parliament. Including this in the draft might make them willing to have a dialogue. We can include that in the draft as a compromise, which might make them willing to enter a dialogue, or we have to keep it secret and divert their attention away during the process. But even if that front is covered, what about House Taurus? Do you think your relatives can decide to strike at the reforms? Your uncle holds incredible sway here. Let's see. We are not in the best of terms with my family. I don't think they will support the Constitution in any way, which, yeah, that's true. What do you plan to do about that? If necessary, I will put the Golden Guard around them and make sure they do not attempt to do anything until the transition is complete. Well, if you think that would really work, Your Majesty. And finally, there's the whole task of uniting the House behind the Constitution. But fortunately, I've got that covered. He turned the page on his notebook and looked at me. So, Your Majesty, about the threats we mentioned. Now that my mother is back in the mainland, House Saison should also be a part of this equation. She still holds enormous sway. We will need a clear approach and a solid plan. Let's see. You know, I don't really know how to go about this, but I do kind of feel like this would be best. You know, go ahead and invite everybody, surround them with the Golden Guard, and then we just go from there. Because I feel like if we try to be sneaky, they're going to have time to plan everything and stuff. It's going to be a problem. So, and then of course, if we turn around and let them talk and stuff like that, they just have far more resources than we do. So yeah, if we turn around and, you know, put it out there, they're going to hammer this completely. And we just don't have the strength to turn around and fight this back. So I, in this one instance, will not be diplomatic about this. I'm going to go ahead, bring them, and surround them with the Golden Guard, and go from there. This probably won't work, but honestly, this is a shit sandwich. All of these are bad choices in this situation. So I'm going to go with the Golden Guard and see how it goes there. God. Oh, but then at the same time, it's just like I've been diplomatic this entire time. Maybe I should be diplomatic. Oh, God. I don't know. I honestly don't know. This is one of these times I wish I was just doing a live stream and then I could just turn around and just ask the opinion of everyone. We must be transparent and diplomatic about this. We'll have discussions with them. This is the only way the Constitution can be declared. Oh, man. And then, of course, well, I mean, grace is pretty much useless to us right now anyway. So that's not going to help. And then that's the other thing, too. I feel like if I go ahead and try to have discussions about this, it's going to get back to Palais. That's going to cause problems. It's just a whole mess. Fuck. You know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go ahead and use the Golden Guard. Maybe I'll do this in the next game. Even though I plan on just being a straight up dictator in that one. But yeah, I'm not going to do it. I'm actually going to go ahead and be diplomatic. God, this is probably a bad idea. But the other thing too that's really worrying me is the whole Palais situation. That's the key thing that's worrying me. But I was also told that, like, you know, I shouldn't, you know, do anything to Ramis or anything like that. I've seen comments about that towards the end where I may have an option to turn around and execute not Ramis, Rico. I may have an opportunity to execute Rico. Don't do it. So I'm not gonna antagonize. I'm gonna be diplomatic. May God have mercy on my soul. We must be transparent and diplomatic about this. We'll have discussions with them. This is the only way the Constitution can be declared. That is the best approach. It's up to you who to involve in the discussions. Well, it's settled then. Any more thoughts before we decide on the draft? Who will I appoint as head of government until we can hold an election? As the leader of the reforms and the RPP in Parliament, it would make sense that I'd be responsible for the transitionary period as the head of government. However, while the RNC doesn't hold a majority anymore, you may choose to appoint Daria as the head of government as a compromise. Ultimately, it will be your decision to make. Of course, you want to be the first prime minister of Rizia. I hope this isn't what you've been after since the beginning. Let's talk about the draft first. All right, let's start. Are we going to keep the federal structure and respect the autonomy of the regions? Yes. He took notes. How about the legislative? You mentioned establishing an upper house. How would that be structured? We will establish a House of Lords comprised of the nobility as an upper house to get the nobility's backing. Maybe that'll help. He kept taking notes as I spoke. Let me see. They won't have the authority to initiate any legislation. They will only have limited legislative powers. such as voting on constitutional amendments and advising the lower houses. I think that's what I'm gonna go for. Because if I'm not mistaken, that's similar to how our system works. Of course, we have Congress, and then we have, we have the House of Representatives, and then we have the Senate. And if I'm not mistaken, a bill is made in the House. If it's passed, it goes to the Senate. The Senate debates about it. They decide to vote on it. If it's voted in, if it's approved, it goes to the president. Then once the president signs it into action, it goes back to the House after that. So, and then it's, of course, enacted. So we will do that. They won't have the authority to initiate any legislation. They will only have limited legislative powers, such as voting on constitutional amendments and advising the lower house. I understand. And the judiciary? We will grant them the power of judicial review and to declare laws unconstitutional so that they can keep the legislative and the executive in check. I'm definitely not giving them a life tenure, because that's a problem. I guess I'll give them the power of judicial review. Yeah, that'll work. He took notes. Your Majesty, I think we've achieved a lot today. I must start working on the draft as well as rallying the movement as soon as possible. Now that we're going to be transparent about this, it is important to gather as much support as possible behind the movement in the meantime. Maybe Princess Vina can help us with that as well if you decide to include her in the process. She's very popular with some segments of the population. That's a good idea. She can be instrumental in controlling the narrative. I will ask her if she wants to be involved. Great. I will reach out to you when it's time to act. I greatly respect what you're doing, Manus. I hope this plan works out for both of our sakes as well as Rizia's future. We'll see each other again, Your Majesty. Just need a little longer. He smiled and we shook hands. As we left the space, I thought about what I just got myself into. I hoped I was doing the right thing for Rizia. All right, so we got a constitution that we're working on. It's kind of funny how, he doesn't seem too bothered about not being with Vina anymore. But, I don't know, I guess, being a noble and such. All right, negotiations with President Smolik. Give me my piece of the country back. My eyes remained locked on an enormous airship moored at a blimp base on the outskirts of the president's palace in Roklawith, Wayland's capital. Its sleek form dominated the skyline. Hopefully it's named the Hindenburg. Standing before it, I absorbed the sight of President Smolik's imposing image prominently displayed on its side, alongside the flag of Wayland and bold proclamations of Wayland's rise to prominence. With Smolik at the helm, Wayland soars to new heights. Our agreement's 3-year probationary period had come to an end. It was finally time to discuss the return of Zeal. However, my host was nowhere in sight. Flanked by golden guardsmen, I eventually made my way up the red carpet stretching from my motorcade to the airship's gondola, past a dozen or so young women in impeccably pressed uniforms. The interior of the ship was adorned with lavish blue and white drapes cascading from floor to ceiling windows, plus magenta seats lined the cabin, each embellished with opulent tassels and cushions embroidered with the Wayland crest. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a dazzling array of lights across the space. The gondola cabin practically screamed excess to the point of absurdity. And there, standing amongst it all, was the man of the hour, Victor Smolik. Welcome aboard, Your Majesty. So glad you could join me. It was then I noticed that he was carrying a baby who couldn't have been more than a year old. Hmm. Future leader in training? Ha, you could say that. After 11 daughters, courtesy of my 8 wives, all of whom I'm still married to, I finally have a boy. Meet Victor Smollett II, of course. My God, this is like. Hope I didn't say that too loud. I hope my wife didn't hear that, because my God, she wants about this many kids. We're having a father-son weekend. Let's see. Impressive airship you have here, Mr. President. It's my pride and joy, Your Majesty. Won it in a bet with Chancellor Hagel of Vogsland, though he won't admit to it if you ask. It was then that I felt the airship begin its ascent. I looked out the window as the sprawling capital city beneath us became smaller and smaller. I regret what I said about the Hindenburg. This is not the Hindenburg. Please don't let it be the Hindenburg. Let's see. Whenever you're ready, I'm more than happy to begin our discussion. Hey, take a step back, relax and enjoy the ride. We've got a long flight ahead of us. There'll be time for all that soon enough. This dude. Several hours later, I woke up to the sight of a vast expanse of ocean appearing over the horizon. I had fallen asleep in one of the lounge chairs on the observation deck. I hope you had a good rest, Your Majesty. I turned to see Smollett standing over me. Little Victor was in his arms. Would you care for a drink? We've got everything. Just a water, if you will. His Majesty shall receive all the hydration he desires. Come with me. We made our way to a private room where drinks were already waiting for us. Even the baby had a bottle waiting for him. We took our seats in front of the window with a view just as fantastic as before. To traveling in style, cheers. Smollett and I clinked glasses. You're the first world leader to share a ride on my airship. I'm honored. You should be. Everyone else is so official and by the book. I could invite Prime Minister Alvarez here, but he'd pay more attention to the liquor than the view. Not wrong. And Queen Beatrice? Ha! Forget about it. It's as if they don't want to be friends. Not like us. I suppose that depends on how you define friendship. Funny you should mention it. Smollett sipped his drink before pulling out a cocktail napkin from his jacket pocket. I saw some vague scribblings on it. We signed an agreement regarding that very subject. He held up the napkin, where I could make out a list of the terms to our amended treaty. Please tell me we're not determining the fate of millions via a cocktail napkin. I beg your pardon. I'll try to use a chalkboard next time. I prefer the annotated version, direct and to the point. He waved his napkin around once more. Well, then allow me to be direct and to the point. I came here to ensure that Rizia's rightful claim to Zeal is upheld and all territory currently occupied by Wayland forces returned. I truly hope this hasn't been a waste of time. Smollett's expression turned cold. I'll be the judge of that. A brief moment of tension quickly subsided with a flash of the president's trademark smile. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. His attention returned to his napkin. We made an agreement, Your Majesty. I believe we both remember its terms. Yes, I do. There was a security component. There was not a security? Well, there was. Yes, because that was the whole thing with the BFF. Indeed, there was. If I'm reading my handwriting correctly, it says here, your refusal to grant the Blutish safe haven in Rizia has helped us catch many a terrorist. I want to thank you profusely for your country's cooperation in our Operation Bear Trap. While your assistance has somewhat hindered their operations, I'm sorry to say that the overall situation remains unchanged since Rizia's involvement. So I wonder if Swordland turned around and participated in this along with us, and we had a good military and everything. How would that affect this situation? But that is not your fault, Your Majesty. Smolik looked at his cocktail napkin. Now, as for our agreement's other terms, according to my notes, my people are very grateful for your generous wine shipments. He raised his glass. What can I say? What good is wine if not shared with the world? Indeed, wine's wasted if one merely hogs it for themselves. You also promised to provide us with military equipment, which you follow through on. Given all of our ongoing conflicts, the more guns, the better. Anyway, without getting further into the nitty-gritty of all the goods being exchanged across our borders, that covers the main points I wanted to address regarding trade. By the way, I've heard nothing but gratitude from expatriates of my country living in Rizia. You've really taken it upon yourself to better their situation. Not counting the new religious tax, of course. So that's it for the treaty. I must say, King Ramus, you are a man of your word. It wasn't a one-sided deal. Rizia benefited from it as well. Of course, I hope you're enjoying our fine exports. Having said that, the agreement is not the only factor at play here. We are no closer to finding a culprit for the Friendship Day bombing than we were 5 years ago. It seems as if you are finally coming to your senses regarding your one-sided relationship with Runeberg. I need to think about this for a second. Smolik finished the drink very slowly. So what do you say? Does Rizia meet your criteria for friendship? Well, as far as friendship goes, Smolik abruptly halted mid-sentence, seemingly captivated by the view outside the window. He stood up and approached the glass. Turning to see what had caught his attention, my gaze caught the rays of the setting sun traveling across an open body of water, illuminating an all-too-familiar city on a distant shore. Your Majesty, may I present Zeal? I must say, you've outdone yourself this time, Smolik. The view is absolutely stunning. That's putting it lightly. Ha! Smolik and I continued to gaze at the view in silence. I must say, the sight of Zeal takes my breath away every time I see it, as I hope it does for you too. Get a good look, Your Majesty, because I'm sorry to say you won't get many opportunities to do so in the future, given I have no intention of giving it back. Ah, of course. Taken aback, I paused for a moment to process what I had just heard. Well, if that's the way it is, I'll certainly make sure to treasure this moment. After all, it's not every day I get to witness someone digging their own grave. Come now, Your Majesty. Empty threats are beneath someone of your stature. The only one here beneath my stature is you. Whatever you say, Your Majesty. Look, I wish I could help you. I really do. But a deal's a deal. I have a reputation to uphold. If I stop following through with my promises, no one will take me seriously. And the last thing I'd want is for people to think they can take advantage of me. His eyes sparkled with suppressed laughter, seemingly betraying the internal struggle to contain his amusement. From here on out, I will present my case for a referendum on Zeal to the Alliance of Nations. Some of our compatriots still have respect for the democratic process, you see. Until then, consider Zeal's return on hold. Let's see. A referendum on this land is not within your rights to call. It's illegal, and I will challenge it in the Alliance of Nations, or... Yeah, sure, I'll go with that. Challenge accepted. We Wessex have a history of resilience. I stood against a superpower. Your kingdom will be no different. Zarptek Smolny. It wasn't until long after we landed, our weekend excursion having ended early, that I was struck by the full weight of what had transpired. Well, I'm guessing I'm going to have to give this money to the Ariana Torres Foundation. God damn it. Wine exports could quadruple. Oh, okay. The wine industry has achieved a remarkable milestone, quadrupling of its exports. This surge in viticulture exports signifies Rizia's growing prominence in the global market, offering an opportunity to further promote and capitalize on our renowned vintage. The decision to embrace this success can enhance our budget and solidify our reputation as a producer of fine wines. Oh, shit. Yeah. Let's go with that. Wow, this is the most budget I've had since the very beginning of the game. All right, okay, we're starting to get somewhere with things. Zeal's return, diplomatic standstill. King Ramus journeyed to Wayland for a vital meeting with President Smolik regarding Zeal's return. To the Crown's dismay, President Smolik diverted attention with an airship tour during negotiations. Despite efforts, an agreement for Zeal's return remained elusive. Rizians, disappointed, still hold hope for their province's reunion as diplomatic tensions persist. While the kingdom remains steadfast, the road to Zeal's return proves challenging, casting uncertainty over the future. Now, is there anything I can purchase as far as to get my authority up? No, that just gives me manpower. That does not give me authority. That doesn't give me authority. I'm guessing none of these give me authority. I could purchase some energy. But again, we already have energy coming in, and I'm pretty sure with the whole Palais thing, then we'll get more energy coming in as well next turn, I believe, hopefully. That's what I'm assuming, possibly. Let's see. Monkey's Port and Naval Shipyard expansion. Now, I could... Oh, yeah, I don't have the authority to do that. Okay, all right. Yeah, I was about to say I had the authority. If I had the authority to do that, I would have. But I do not. It is fine. Okay, so what do we have here? Qualis Vineyards report record harvest. Amidst ever-increasing wine exports, the vineyards around Qualis have reported a record harvest. Already, plans are underway to plant many more acres full of grapevines to keep up with surging global demand for Rizian wines. I also just had a random thought, just thinking about the constitution that we're trying to write, and I just thought that it was kind of funny that I'm playing in a game where I'm an absolute monarch and I have complete power over everything and I can pass everything left and right, and I'm trying to reform the country. And the very first political game that I played, I was trying to go in the exact opposite direction. It was Geopolitical Simulator, and by the time I got to the end, I had managed to turn around and completely take over the government. I was playing as Barack Obama, and I managed to completely, I got rid of the Senate and everything. I made it a one-party state because I bribed the Republican speaker or the Republican minority leader, and that gave me enough votes to pass, so to make the Republican Party illegal. And then I turned around and removed the power of the judiciary, basically made it a one-party state. And then I turned around and made the Republican Party, I had made an announcement saying basically that they were terrorists, and they decided to actually become terrorists. And then I had the CIA watching them and just assassinated the majority of their leaders. Fun times. I've come very far since then. So, Alliance of Nations HQ, Constantinium. The royal convoy finally arrived at the entrance of the Alliance of Nations headquarters in Constantinium. I looked around and none of the other leaders had the prestige nor the grandiose of our convoy. I felt good about the day. I smiled before jumping into the den of the wolves. After the usual greetings, we moved into the welcome hall with Lorento to take our seats. He leaned over to my ear. Here we go, Your Majesty. What is the worst thing that can happen if we don't get Zeal back? We will see, sir. A man that I recognized as President Nines approached the podium. The introductions to the session followed. You know, it does surprise me that there isn't a picture for President Nines, considering they're the head of the Alliance of Nations. With the hit of the gavel, President Nines announced the opening of the session. Martin Van Horden, Prime Minister of Agnolia, was summoned to the stage. Thank you, President Nines. Good morning. It is an honor to see you all in this chamber. The Alliance of Nations and its importance on the world is paramount to peace. It is the sole organization that can bring all of us together to discuss, and not just discuss, but to solve the issues we face together. Our collective justice is strong, and our wills combined, we can do anything. Thus, I bring to this session the issue that my country, Agnolia, faces, to ask you for your fairness and justice. Helgi Island. Oh wait, is this the one with Rain and everybody? Like, I think towards the end of the game? The yawning leader suddenly woke up upon hearing the name of the island. I heard Lorenzo speak to himself. Oh boy, here we go. I kept watching the speech. Our people on this island are currently living under the long shadow cast by Vogsland. Their territorial ambitions know no bounds and no end over this island that they claim unlawfully as theirs. Helgi Island is a vital piece of our heritage that they are trying to take away from us by force. I pose you this question. What would you have done if it was your own? Our eyes randomly met before he turned his gaze. The place where your great-grandfather was born in, where your father was born in. Would you not defend it? Would you not protect it with your life? He has a point. Having a point is not enough. There's more at play here. As unfortunate as it is, one needs might as well to make it right. For peace in Eastern Marcopa, Helgi Island has to be recognized as Agnolian. Don't forget, it will be us first, then others will follow. I ask you to do the right thing. Thank you. I could see that Imric Hagel had a smirk on his face. He seemed confident. President Nines declared the voting to begin on the matter. Nay. Aye. Abstain. Aye. Nay. 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 Jesus. It was finally my turn to cast a vote. I can't abstain? Nah. Nay. The voting concluded, and the President Nines took his seat. The result was nay by a landslide. Defeated, Martin Van Horden shook his head in disbelief. His shoulders dropped. Who knew what he felt like in that moment? Lorenzo stood up to leave to catch a minister he wanted to talk to. I enjoyed the Kyrutian circular pastry with sesame seeds, apparently named Rekgev, that was handed as the snack while I waited for the session to continue. With the Smolak, President Whand got up from his seat to speak. He held his arms up in the air and shouted, "Alliance of Nations, hear me. I can't help with these dramatic interests, can he? He can't help, good God. I come to you today with dire news from our southeastern border. The transfer of Zeal to the Kingdom of Rizia. Zeal under Whand has enjoyed democratic freedoms that they have never seen or experienced before. To lose these freedoms by joining a monarchy, nobody wants that. Would you? I wouldn't. I heard representatives, personally I might add, from Zeal. They were clear in their request from me. They asked the good old Victor to help them, and I promised that I would. Zeal wants to stay as part of Whand. People's will is paramount in a democracy. King Ramis, although you may not know it. A democratic referendum will take place in Zeal so that people themselves can decide on where they would like to align themselves with. Let him continue. I presented him with the idea of the referendum, even, to ensure that he did not interfere with the results. He almost spat on my face. What do you expect from a monarch? Of course, they did not sit idly during these times. King Ramesh Taurus is knowingly, intentionally sowing dissent among the populace of Zeal. I have proof. With underhanded tactics, he has tried to garner a movement to join Rizia, and it is growing larger and larger. We found direct links to an armed resistance brewing under Zeal. We found Rizian weapons in the hands of these terrorists. Where are these weapons coming from? Answer me. From Rizia itself, of course. There are big games being played on Wayland. Everyone is against us. Zeal referendum will happen. We, as the leading organization in the region, must help these poor people from the clutches of a king when what they crave for is democracy and freedom. That is all I will say. He left the podium. President Nines motioned forward. I got up from my seat to defend Rizia's position and made my way to the podium. Esteemed members of the Alliance of Nations. I can't help but respond to the accusations about the people of Zeal. My mother was born there. I know Zeal more than anyone else here. So I say this to him. Do not come lecture me about our own values. No, I'm not going to say that. This menace, Wayland's menace, has to end. I would like to talk about this agreement brought up by President Smolak. The territory of Zeal was only given to Wayland for 25 years, not a day longer. I ask you this, what would we be if we were not honoring the agreements we make? No matter what you say, there is one thing we do right in Rizia, and that is honor. Ha! I won't allow for an agreement that was agreed upon to be broken. President Smolik demeans others with such ease, but let's talk about what he's done in the region. He talks about democracy, yet look at Wayland. It is a dictatorship of the few. That's very ironic coming from me. Ask any Wessex citizen that is not held at gunpoint by this man. How can he be trusted? As shown by his behavior here, I will give the answer. He can't. The people of Zeal will not suffer the same fate as the minorities in his own country in his own country does. I've said enough about Wayland and the games President Smolak is playing. I want to talk about this referendum. This referendum is instigated by President Smolak himself, not the people of Zeal. There is not a way that this referendum would be done democratically with Wayland's interventions. I want you to put yourselves in Rizia's shoes. What would you have done? If we abide by the rule of law, what must be done is clear. Zeal must be returned to Rizia as per the agreement. I ask for your votes to send the Alliance of Nations peacekeepers to Zeal to stop this illegal referendum. I stepped down from the podium to the applause from people. I went back to my seat next to Lorento. A very good speech, Your Majesty. I could barely hold myself back not to insult Smolik. Admirable restraint, sir. Let's see what will be decided on. After much deliberation, President Nines opened the floor to votes to allow the referendum or not. Aye. Abstain. 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 Nay. Okay, Swordlin. Nay. Okay, Axel. You motherfucker. Okay. I think it's even now. Oh, you fuck. Oh, Leon Melaniev, you motherfucker. The votes were counted. The Alliance of Nations would not interfere with the result of the referendum and allow it to happen. God damn it. Pardon my language, Your Majesty. Almost everyone seems to be stacked against us. They won't pay for this in this lifetime, but they will all pay for this. Yes, Your Majesty. An aide leaned over to my ear to let us know that it was lunchtime. We made our way out the chamber. Oh, you motherfucker. AN allows the Zeal referendum to process. The Alliance of Nations has voted in favor of allowing the Zeal referendum to proceed, seemingly convinced by Victor Smolik's pledge to hold a free and fair vote. The Rizian crown reacted with disgust to the decision, saying the legality of Rizia's rule over Zeal has already been established in branding any attempt by Wayland to hold on to the territory illegal, and votes against recognizing Helgeland as Agnolian. The AN has overwhelmingly voted against the Agnolian proposal to recognize Helgeland, the disputed island in the Markian Sea, as Agnolian. Currently, the island is recognized as de jure part of Vogsland, although Agnolia occupies it. Agnolia's Prime Minister, Martin Van Horden, responded disappointed to the vote, saying the failure to recognize the island jeopardizes peace in Eastern Marcopa. Well, it's nice to know that even in this timeline, the Alliance of Nations / United Nations is completely fucking useless. So, it's always great. Deficit from low global energy cells. Oh, thanks. Well, I guess good thing I had that fucking budget right there. Gotta love it. Global energy prices lowest in years. Global energy prices have hit a new low, driven by an ever-increasing supply of energy with only a limited increase in demand. While this is an incredible situation for the average consumer in many countries, net energy exporting countries are expected to suffer as they are unable to profit from energy sales as much as before. I was afraid of something like that happening, so. Royal Wedding Committee. Oh, fucking hell. The kingdom is eagerly awaiting Princess Vena's impending nuptial. To ensure that everything runs smoothly on the big day, it has been advised that we fund the creation of a royal wedding committee comprising event planners, security experts, protocol officers, financial managers, and communication specialists. In the event that the committee is not founded, responsibility for wedding coordination would fall on the members of the royal household. I'm so sorry, Vena. The household should handle it. Nighttime at the palace. It was the night before Vena's wedding. After a day spent finalizing arrangements, conducting interviews, and meeting with visiting guests, I was exhausted. First, though, I decided to take a walk in the palace gardens to clear my head. I had just stepped onto the grounds when I bumped into Lucida. Oh, hello, Your Majesty. I was conducting last-minute security drills in the Grand Hall. You really can't be too careful with these things. Look at us, addicted to our jobs. There's no clocking out when the kingdom's future is at stake. Come on, let's take a walk. We strolled further into the gardens. It was a balmy night, and the moon was just beginning to rise. Under cover of darkness, Lucida slipped her hand into mine. I can't believe Her Highness is getting married tomorrow. I still remember attending the celebrations when she was born. Her mother looked so gorgeous. And me? How did I look? I didn't want to say the other ones. Like a handsome prince. We had come to the clearing in the middle of the gardens. To our left was the stone bench. The moon had risen by now, illuminating Lucida's features. I thought about everything we'd been through together. I thought about her position as counselor. Her interim status had lasted longer than expected, but it was nearly time for her father to return. Kneel. I knelt on the ground. Lucida's eyes widened. She looked at me questioningly. Are you able to bear children? Yeah, that's a great question to ask. Lucida, will you marry me? She clapped a hand to her mouth. It was a second before she replied. Is it unromantic of me to ask why? I've loved you since the moment you entered my council chambers. I've loved you since before we even met. Oh, that's so sweet. She reached down, grabbed the back of my head, and pulled my face level with hers. Yes, King Ramus, I will marry you. We kissed with such force that we nearly toppled to the ground. I wondered if any guards had eyes on us. When we broke apart, she was grinning. Wait, I have an idea. She took my hand and pulled me towards the palace. She led me through the ground floor corridors until we came to the entrance of Saul Ignatius's quarters. What, you want to wake the old man up now? She put a finger to her lips and quietly rapped on the door. After almost a minute, it creaked open. Saul stood there in his dressing gown. Your Majesty, Your Grace, is there an emergency? Lucida took my hand and stepped forward. Friend Wiseman, His Majesty and I are in love, and I wish for you to sanctify our union by the sacrament of marriage. Now. He rubbed his eyes. This is most unorthodox. Would you rather we live in sin, Grand Wiseman? No, of course not. Give me one moment. He carefully closed the door. Was this how you always dreamed your wedding would be? Right down to the grass stain on my dress. The door opened and Saul beckoned us inside, now dressed in ceremonial robes. Because we are not in a church, some sacred traditions will have to be foregone, but your marriage shall still be valid before the Lord and the law. Please join hands. I clasped Lucida's hand in mine as we stood side by side in front of Saul. He opened an ancient-looking scroll and read from it. Almighty and ever-living God, who in thy infinite wisdom hast blessed this union of two hearts in holy wedlock, look kindly upon His Majesty Ramus Taurus and Duchess Lucida Azaro, who stand before thee seeking thy blessing. In this sacred covenant, love and duty converge to forge a legacy that transcends the temporal realm. Let it be known that in the heart of such a union, the virtues of loyalty, honor, and unwavering commitment are the true jewels that adorn the crown of matrimonial sanctity. The royal orb was on his desk. He picked it up and motioned for us to place our joined hands upon it. Now, repeat after me. I, Ramus Taurus, do pledge my unwavering faithfulness and devotion to you, Lucida Azaro. I vow to honor and uphold you in joy and in sorrow, in prosperity and adversity. I commit to lead our union with wisdom and compassion, seeking always the guidance of the divine. In all our days, my commitment to you shall remain steadfast as we walk together in God's light. Saul nodded to Lucida, and she repeated the vow. The Grand Wiseman placed the orb back on his desk. He took out a small pot containing a strong-smelling substance. This oil is infused with the protection of our Lord and the strength and blessing of our ancestors. As you anoint one another, be reminded of your promises to serve each other, the Lord, and this realm. I dipped the finger into the oil and lightly touched Lucida's forehead. She did the same to me. Saul reached into a drawer and produced 2 ancient-looking rings. These were salvaged from the Plavo crypt. I don't know who they belong to. They belong to House Azaro, Grand Wiseman. That much is certain. They're beautiful. I'll wear mine with pride. As we exchanged rings, I looked deep into Lucida's eyes. They were like bottomless pools, concealing the future of the kingdom somewhere within their depths. By the power vested in me, through the divine grace and the laws that govern our land, I now pronounce you husband and wife. In accordance with tradition, you may now seal your vows with a kiss. Our lips met. I sensed every molecule in her body vibrating with happiness. Once again, I was a married man. But there was still one more wedding to go. All right, so we've sealed the deal, and now we are married to Lucida Azaro. So now she doesn't know about those democratic reforms that I got going on. So I wonder how this is all going to play out in the end. I hope I can keep her on my side, especially with laws and such. Ooh, I wonder if I can turn around and basically force her to stay on my side since we are officially married, and Saul knows about it. Rufus Gragg's royal gossip, household responsible for wedding. Tragic news. It would appear that King Romus has opted to have the upcoming royal wedding be handled by his own household, who will have to make do with modest funds. While we of course understand the financial situation the kingdom finds itself in, we wouldn't wonder but ask, is there really no way to raise the extra funds? So we decided to take matters into our own hands. To ensure a successful and grandiose wedding celebration, we will be collecting donations which will be handed over directly to the royal household. All rejoice, for the wedding can be saved with your money. I'm never going to get that money, am I? And now for the wedding of my daughter, Princess Vina. Long may she reign one day. Maybe? The day of Vina's wedding had finally arrived. The mood in the country was jubilant, though the prospect of permanently losing zeal to Wayland lent solemn undertones to the celebrations. The service had just concluded at the Ark Sanctuary of Zeba. Vina had been nervous as we walked down the aisle together, but the moment she spotted Duke Reinhardt waiting for her at the altar, it all melted away. There was an undeniable spark between them. It wasn't love yet, but it could be. Grand Wiseman Ignatius presided over the wedding, giving no sign that he'd repeated the same words to myself and Lucida the night before. As per tradition, the newlyweds shared their first kiss on the Zilba steps in front of the public. The crowd went wild as Axel dipped Vina low for the cameras. Citizens waved Rizian and Pelasian flags from the balconies as our carriage procession wound through the streets of Port Drazen, flanked by the Golden Guard. We disembarked in front of Palais Resna. It was time for the reception. Lucida was by my side as we entered the grand hall. I heard cheers mixed with disapproving whispers as the photographers took our picture. Was this a mistake? Too much, too quickly? Of course not. Today shall serve as 2 wedding celebrations in one. Efficient, Your Majesty. She smiled and held her left hand behind her back as the cameras kept flashing. I took her around the hall. It had been turned into a sea of banquet tables, each covered with fine linen tablecloths, tasteful floral centerpieces, and quality china. Overhead, small crystal chandeliers provided gentle illumination. We crossed the room and took our place behind the head table. My mother was already seated, wearing a deep violet hat adorned with peacock feathers. Abel shook our hands before helping us into our seats. Congratulations, Your Majesty, and to you on your hat, madam. Why, thank you. I'm happy someone in this palace appreciates haute couture. The hall looks wonderful. Resources were limited, but I did what I could. A string quartet struck up a stately march as the bride and groom made their entrance. Venus' shimmering white gown trailed behind her as she and Axel strode through the grand hall arm in arm, waving to the cheering guests with practiced ease. As they took their seats behind our table, a line of guests formed to deliver their congratulations. Ah yes, the ritualistic parade of gifts and flattery. If I must suffer through it, so be it. Estella leaned over and nudged her granddaughter. Sit up straighter, dear. Don't forget you're the princess of 2 countries now. Soon to be 1. Axel kissed Venus' cheek, then cocked an eyebrow at Lucida. Nothing set in stone yet, my lady. Queen Beatrice was first in line to greet us. My word, Vina, you're the spitting image of your mother in that gown. Vina smiled, her eyes moist. Thank you for coming, Aunt Bee. Why, I wouldn't miss it for anything in the world. Duke Reinhardt, it's an honor to meet Grace's newest member in person. Axel kissed her hand and threw her a roguish wink. The honor is all mine, Your Excellency. I'm very much looking forward to collaborating with you, whether the grand reunion happens or not. Her eyes came to rest on Lucida. You're the warrior noblewoman I've heard so much about. Guilty as charged, Your Excellency. Oh, God, no. Why would I say that? God, this is a terrible thing to say in this situation. Nah, but I'll say this. Thank you for coming, Beatrice. I know all of us wish your sister could have been here today. That's so awkward. She lived for such occasions, always ready with a perfectly worded toast. I'm not so rude as to have forgotten the gift. Our royal jewelers are putting the finishing touches on it as we speak. With a final curtsy, she departed to the table she shared with her husband and sons. I wonder if that's going to give me authority, or is that going to give me some budget? I would love some budget. Even if it's like 1 budget per turn. I take that. President Anton Rain stepped before me. He was accompanied by a man I vaguely recognized. Congratulations, Your Majesty. It's very good to see you again. Mr. President, I'm glad you can make it. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to speak more at the AN. I told my secretary to mark my calendar as soon as I got the invitation. You've got as much writing on our business partnerships. We've got as much writing on our business partnership as you do. My wife, Monica, sends her regrets. Some sort of feminine issue. I didn't want to ask for details. Oh, God, really? But I brought someone else who's been wanting to meet you for a while. Oh, God. Good old Peter. Please stay away from my wife, also my daughter, my mother, any other person around here. Peter Vecturn, Your Majesty, at your service. Sorlin's vice president bowed low to the ground, wobbling slightly as he straightened up. The president and vice president of Sorlin at my daughter's wedding? What an honor. Are we going to keep having cameos like this in the future DLCs? Well, since it's going back in the past, probably not, so. I'll tell you what's an honor, meeting the one and only king of Rizia in the flesh. And you, of course, Your Highness. Vina had a polite smile frozen on her face. Thank you for coming today, Vice President Vecturn. Thank you for allowing me to crash your wedding. Should you ever fancy a diplomatic visit to Holsword, I will personally make sure you are given the royal treatment. Oh god, fuck off, Peter. His eyes wandered over to Axel. A marriage between once warring kingdoms. Say this would fit right into an idea I had for a soap opera about monarchies. The Swordish president politely nudged his companion. It's time we adjourn to the tables, Mr. Vector. Congratulations once again, Your Majesty. My mother wore a delighted smile at the Swordish delegation as the Swordish delegation left. They're exactly as I imagined them. I took a look at the line. There were still a number of guests waiting to greet us. Rusty Montero enthusiastically offered his well wishes and gifted the newlyweds a life-size statue of themselves made of solid gold. Nobles from all three houses extended their polite greetings to Vina and Axel. It felt like an eternity before we finally got to eat. As the father of the bride and the king of Rizia, I was expected to open the feast with a toast. A new Contevo vintage had been bottled in Vina's honor. They named it Her Royal Winess. Table had arranged for me to receive the usual substitute. I raised the full glass in front of me. Ladies and gentlemen. I'm truly overcome with emotion that so many of you came out to honor my daughter's marriage. I'm proud to extend our traditional Rizian hospitality to our guests from Palais. There was a loud round of applause. Long ago, I promised my daughter that she could marry whomever she desired. The union you witness today is more than a mere love bond. It is an entwining of destinies. Axel wrapped an arm around Vina. They smiled out at the crowd. I trust Princess Vina and Prince Consort Axel to bring Rizia and Palais into the future together. And I am proud that the good name of House Taurus will live on in Vina and her descendants. Loud cheers went up from the Taurus tables. As you enjoy this sumptuous banquet, do not forget the thousands of unseen hands who have made it possible, from the farmers who till the soil to the servants pouring the wine. We raise our glasses not only to the newlyweds, but to a future without conflict. Everyone in the hall lifted their glasses high. Glovurius Axa Rizia. All of our Rizian guests repeated the words, the hall filled with the sound of clinking glasses. As the others at my table sipped their wine, I saw smiles on their faces. The Contevos have outdone themselves. This one might be their masterpiece. A sweet finish, the sweetest of days. I looked once more at my daughter. The light from the chandeliers glinted off Lena's ring on her finger. She and Axel were talking to each other animatedly, their full wine glasses all but forgotten. I knew she'd remember today forever. All right, so we made it through the end of the chapter. We're still at -3 budget, but again, I'm hoping and praying. Well, I can sell some energy next turn, and hopefully that'll get me through. So let's go ahead and see what We have Princess Vina and Axel Reinhardt officially married. It is done in a grand ceremony. Crown Princess Vina married Axel Reinhardt, the Grand Duke of Palais, both vowing to be loyal to each other until eternity. The ceremony was held as custom dictates at the Zilba Ark Sanctuary before the guests and newlyweds made their way to Palais Resna, where a grand reception awaited them. Their guests from across Marcopa extended their well-wishes to the newlywed couple. Festivities continued until deep into the night, with crowds across the country celebrating the momentous occasion in the streets and in other public places. Rufus Gregg's royal gossip, Estella's hat overshadows literally everyone. Welcome to this special fashion edition where we will cover the extravagant and dazzling outfits of the royal wedding guests. There are some true stunners. We start with Queen Mother Estella's hat. While we are used to her wearing large and wide-brimmed hats, we have never seen one of this size. Not only is the hat so big that anyone walking next to her is literally standing in her shadow, the top is adorned with the most magnificent peacock feathers, the most magnificent peacock feathers one has ever seen, complete with a small bull statuette hidden between the feathers. But what about the other guests? From sordid elegance to Haginas extravagance, all will be covered on the next few pages, leading up to Princess Vina's review at the very end. All right. Royal wedding puts Rizia and Palais closer to reunification. Following the marriage of Rizia and Crown Princess Vina to Palaisian Grand Duke Axel Reinhardt, the two countries have become closer than ever towards achieving unification, with rumors that both sides are open to the idea. While the exact timeline is unknown, at the very least, any children coming out of the marriage will be the heir to both the Rizian and Palaisian thrones. But chances of an even quicker reunification are high due to relations between the two monarchs being more cordial than ever before. All right, let's head to the next chapter. The Prince. Machiavelli? That could be good or bad. I'm not sure, honestly. All right, so we have 5 authority and we have 4 energy. I am going to start off by probably selling some energy. Let's see what we have going on. Port Drazin, read the reports. Homelessness in freefall. As the program providing housing to homeless individuals starts picking up speed, the number of unhoused inside Port Drazin has effectively halved. A shortage of housing still exists, making finding suitable housing space difficult, but the new constructions are underway to alleviate these problems. Former oil workers declare autonomous town. The former workers of the now shut Nelvisar oil field, having stayed organized thanks to their yearly galas in their honor, have seized control over the Nelvisar town hall and declared Nelvisar an autonomous commune where no government forces are welcome. Order breaks down as streets battle erupts. Protests against the monarchy have turned violent in Isa, with the city authorities unable to maintain any semblance of order. Street battles have erupted between anti-monarchy demonstrators and ultra-nationalist Suamina, resulting in multiple casualties. Smoke is constantly rising from the city center as buildings routinely are set ablaze. Authorities prepare for another mass demonstration. Authorities in the capital are scrambling to organize a response to yet another mass demonstration against the monarchy that is to take place there in coming days. With the protesters expected to arrive from all over the country, this could be the biggest one yet. Oh, God. So I am pretty much one step from a full-blown coup by the people, dragged out into the streets. Well, hopefully we can get a plane out of here, maybe go to Swordland or something. Let's see. We have the Republic of Swordland, Republic of Morella. Outcome of the Swordland bond investment. Approximately 4 years have passed since our strategic investment in Swordland's economic recovery bonds. The global economy has witnessed numerous fluctuations and changes during the period, affecting Swordland's economic rebound. Now it's time to assess the financial outcomes of the bonds. We win or lose nothing. Really? I got fuck all from that? Great. Absolutely wonderful. So that was a gigantic waste of time. But, you know, hey, we got some trade deals with Swordland to begin with. So there's that. I kind of figured that would happen, though, because, I mean, I felt like we needed to take a stance one way or the other. But, I mean, at least we didn't lose anything, so there's that. Next, we have the Republic of Morella. Final board vote on the myths. So yeah, let me go ahead and sell some energy. And let's see, what do we have here? I can do a medium third global energy sale. This would take all of my energy, but I'm going to do it. It'll give me 2 budget. Again, I am really hoping that the end of the game is going to be coming soon, because I can't really afford to keep doing this. Okay. So we have no more energy left, but we do have 4 authority still left, so there are options. Let me see. Is there anything else? I can legalize illegal substances. That will cost 3 authority, but it give me 1 budget per turn. I need budget now. Decriminalize. That'll cost -4 authority. Yeah, everything is going to give me budget per turn. I need money. Like, I want money now. Let's see. I can't remove the income tax. Definitely not going to give tax credits to businesses. Ooh. This would give me 3 budget. I would have no authority. But this budget might be useful in trade negotiations, because I think what I'm going to do is, if the option still presents itself, I'm going to turn around and buy out Lesbia's stocks if it's still there. If it's not, then I just have extra budget. And I pray to God I don't need authority for anything else. Oh, God. Here we go. All right. I have 5 budget now, no energy, and no authority. So let's see what we can do with this. Large landowner targeted with fresh taxes. In order to give a one-time boost to the state's income, the kingdom is imposing a one-time tax on those who own more than 15 square kilometers of land. It applies retroactively for up to 2 years to ensure those who want to evade their duty to the well-being of the nation cannot rapidly sell off their assets. While some members of the aristocracy will definitely be disgruntled by this move, the king stated he considers the contribution of duty of those who are well off, saying the strongest shoulders should carry the burden and should be proud of their ability to support the state and its people in these trying times. Oh, okay, so that's basically what I was asking for before, that you be able to use authority in order to get some budget or whatever. So, Zeal reunited with Rizia, a triumph of perseverance. After decades of Wayland occupation, Zeal has finally reunited with Rizia, marking a historic moment for the kingdom. Despite encountering significant obstacles, King Rames's perseverance was instrumental in guaranteeing that the crown successfully reclaimed Zeal, securing its rightful place within Rizia. The long-awaited reunion is a symbol of the king's commitment to the kingdom's prosperity. As the flag of Rizia flies over Zeal once more, citizens celebrate the restoration of unity and sovereignty. Oh, okay. I didn't even know that happened. Hang on. Well, okay. What was that, a typo? Following an internal clause, this lease marks a significant change during the Legacy War. Well, it doesn't say anything right there, but I guess we got Zeal back. You would think me getting Zeal back would turn around and give me some, power or something. Weakening tradition, lost territorial integrity. Oh, wait, because, yeah, I think we were only getting +3 before, right? I might be wrong about that, but yeah, I think we were getting +3 before. So now we're getting +4. because I guess we got Zeal back. So, yeah, okay, good. I thought that was going to be more painful than that. Anyway, final board vote on the mitts. Once again, our helicopters touched down in the Methium International Trade Zone. Alina winced as she descended the steps to the sandy ground. The trip was quicker last time, or I was just younger. She pinned a strand of gray hair behind her ear as we began walking towards the MIT's headquarters. Ready for the final vote, Your Majesty? Remind me again, how much do we have writing on this? Well, admittedly, it's unlikely we'll find any new gold sources in Rizia in the near future, which is troubling because a large percentage of our economy still depends on gold. So we have vested interest in making sure the proposal we agreed on with Morella goes through. I'd advise you to think about how we can maximize our returns, even if it costs us an international partnership or two. I fully intend to come out of this building with both our gold income and our international relations intact, Miss Warner. Then I wish you the best of luck. We kept walking until we reached the entrance of the headquarters. Just as the door was being opened for us, an aide rushed up to Elena and whispered something in her ear. Her face turned white. She pulled me aside. Your Majesty, there's been a new development. Apparently, Morella and Lesbia have reached a last-minute accord. The renegotiated MITS proposal now splits the trade zone equally between the two countries, leaving us with nothing. Alvarez double-crossed us. Why am I not surprised? It was always a possibility that Lesbia would turn against us. I'm just disappointed that Morella went along with it. At least Hegel will never support such a thing. We're about to enter the building when Chancellor Hegel and the rest of the Volgish delegation walked past us. Hegel looked me in the eye and nodded in greeting, his expression unreadable. Chancellor, may I have a moment of your time? He stopped in his tracks. One moment. The aide quickly readied a side room for us. We stepped in and sat across from one another. Chancellor Hegel, I must insist that you do not vote for the latest proposal. It was amended without Rizia's knowledge, just out of curiosity. I'll be direct. Are you going to support Lesbia stealing our share in the MITS? Hegel barked out a laugh. I warned you that the lesbians were a menace to the trade zone. You didn't listen to me, and this is your reward. Obviously, I'm against Alvarez and his cronies snapping up a bigger share of South Marcopa's largest source. Don't worry, the chances of the new proposal passing are roughly that of a snowball in hell. Is there anything I can do in exchange for a little extra reassurance? He folded his arms. There's precisely one thing you can offer. Your island, Calicabez. Allow Vogsland and the CSP to use it as a base of operations. You'll be compensated fairly, of course. Fuck yes, our kingdom can use the extra income. Why not? Let's make a deal. You can have it. He reached out and shook my hand firmly. A pleasure cooperating with you, Mr. Torres. I assume we're done here. Thank you for your flexibility, Chancellor. We left the room. Alina cornered me as I came out of the room. Well, Your Majesty, what was that about? Vogsland's cooperation has been secured. That's wonderful news. I'll refrain from asking how. We were ushered into the main conference hall. Alina split off for her seat as I was led to one of the 4 podiums on stage. Alvarez had a smug expression on his face as I took my place next to him. Greetings, Mr. Alvarez. Hello, Your Majesty. There was a squeal of feedback as Alma Sultana tapped on her microphone. The reporters, executives, and various delegations in the conference hall snapped to attention. My brothers and sisters, we all know what this is about, so I will get straight to it. Several years ago, the Republic of Morella began an initiative to bring the resources of the Mephium Basin under the stewardship of our state and our people. She took a deep breath. Unfortunately, not all the stakeholders agreed on this new direction for the trade zone. But after several rounds of negotiations, we were able to come to a compromise that preserved the MIT structure while introducing new measures. The new agreement includes some changes to the size of our partners' shares. But rest assured that nobody will be going home empty-handed. Well, almost nobody. An aide approached Sultana with a briefcase. She opened it and took out a single piece of paper. The amended Methium International Trade Zone Agreement of 1957. From henceforth, it is agreed that the shares of the MITs previously belonging to Vogsland will be transferred to the Republic of Morella. Higher wages and stronger labor and environment protections will be implemented immediately. The other half of the trade zone will belong to Lesbia. Alvarez smiled approvingly. Each MIT partner must now grant his or her final vote of approval to the proposal. The Republic of Morella votes yes. Lesbia votes yes as well. We look forward to building a fairer midst together with Morella. It was my turn. The Kingdom of Rizia had no part in this proposal. We refused to approve it. Sultana nodded at Hegel. The Voxlandian Chancellor cleared his throat dramatically. The Republic of Voxland cannot approve this proposal. A few whispers rippled through the crowd. Sultana fixed the Voxlandian Chancellor with a piercing stare. It seems we have a stalemate. The renegotiated agreement cannot be implemented. I tried to catch Elena's eyes. She had her ledger out and was making notes in it with admirable concentration. The chatter in the hall grew louder. A few reporters jumped to their feet and began yelling questions. I will take questions shortly. For now, please talk amongst yourselves. Sultana rushed off the stage, angrily motioning for Hegel to follow her. Alvarez turned to me with a thin-lipped smile. You made a deal with the devil. I hope it was worth it. If Hegel is the devil, you're evil itself. The gloves are off, Your Majesty. The best of luck to your kingdom. With a last scowl in my direction, he left the stage. Yeah, fuck you, Alvarez. All right. So we told Alvarez to eat a dick on the way out. At least I hope we did. All right, read the report. Tens of thousands of worshippers expected. Ruicist communities across the country have called upon their members to attend a planned mass prayer at the Plavo Sanctuary. The prayer, although religious in nature, is also expected to address political issues. Okay. MIT's nationalization bid ends in stalemate. Anticlimactic news from Morella. The years-long attempt to renegotiate the terms of the Methium International Trade Zone has come to naught. A previously agreed-upon draft proposal was scuttled at the last minute during today's board vote, sowing discord between the leaders of Morella, Vogsland, Rizia, and Lesbia. With this outcome, the reset button has been pressed. Though Morella may control half of the MITs now, Rizia's pushback has ensured that the two nations will continue to operate their individual gold mines as they see fit. A wedge has also now been driven between Prime Minister Alma Sultana and Vogslandian Chancellor Emmerich Hegel, who were seen discussing Morella's potential candidacy in the CSP prior to Hegel's unexpected vote against the proposal. All right, so we live to fight another day. High tea with Queen Beatrice. Our grandfather clock in the tea room of Brambleton Manor let out a series of deep, resonant chimes. Queen Beatrice had invited me to her countryside retreat in Dateford for a one-on-one talk, but she hadn't filled me in on the subject. I didn't care what she wanted to talk about. I was glad to get away from the capital and see my sister-in-law. I looked down at the table in front of me. The white porcelain plate and teacup was surrounded by roughly a drawer's worth of silverware. I remembered my late wife lovingly instructing me on the particulars of Rumbergian high tea etiquette. The outermost spoon was for spreading jam on scones. The middle spoon was exclusively for stirring tea, while the inner spoon was for eating petites fours. Am I going to have to remember this? Just as the clock's fifth chime sounded, The Queen of Runeberg materialized in a doorway, flanked by her attendants. Rise to greet her. I rose from my seat in greeting. She acknowledged me with an imperious nod. We both sat down. A white-gloved server came by and poured us both tea, then set down a tiny bowl of sugar. I knew it. I think it was the middle spoon, right? The middle spoon was exclusively for stirring tea. Middle spoon, yeah. I picked up the middle spoon and used it to stir some sugar into my tea. Beatrice smiled approvingly and did the same. Next time I'll have to invite the Duke of Palais here. There's still much to be discussed about his Grace membership. Thank you once more for accepting Palais's application. They will truly be a worthy addition to our ranks. A larger monarchical presence in South Marcopa is beneficial to us, not to mention that gas field. I wanted to invite Her Highness as well, but I didn't want to interrupt her married bliss. The first year is so special. You're right about that. She's been in seventh heaven since tying the knot. I haven't forgotten about Runeberg's wedding gift, by the way. It is finally ready. Would you like to see it? Without waiting for an answer, she gestured to her attendants. One of them brought forth an oversized velvet-covered jewel case. I lifted the lid. Inside was an ornate ovoid creation, encrusted in the finest jewels. Oh, B, you shouldn't have. A genuine Hattersley egg, one of only 8 in existence, but I'm sure you knew that. Symbolic of the new life my niece and her husband will bring to the Rizian throne, and the heirs they will produce, of course. I detected a look of warning in her eyes. Thank you. My house will treasure it always. You are most welcome. Our server returned with a silver tray of piping hot scones and a crystal ramekin of rosehip jam. That's the outer spoon, right? I picked up the outer spoon and used it to spread jam on one of the scones. You remembered your tea etiquette. Very nice. I must tell you that I and the rest of Grace have been slightly concerned about the direction in which Rizia is heading. No need for concern. I know exactly what I'm doing. That worries me even more. The moment you start giving in to the populist demands for change is the moment all is lost. CSP and ADO are growing far too powerful. Any sign of instability is an opportunity for them to pounce, just like they've pounced on Calica Biz. Which is why it's so important that you keep Victor Smolik from seizing Zeal. Hey, they told me I had Zeal. We'll win the referendum. Of that, I have no doubt. So I'm guessing that was a typo? But will Wayland respect the results when they did not even respect your father's treaty? 2 more servers delicately put down a towering editor spilling over with petite fours. That's the inner spoon. Well done. My sister must have taught you well. We continued talking about our kingdoms as we finished our tea and sweets. As I flew home on yet another cramped commercial plane, I saw Zeal spread out beneath me. In only a few short weeks, its fate would be decided. Oh man, so we have Zeal coming up. That's going to be a thing. And I'm guessing that's probably the next thing? Yep. Okay, so we have that next. I guess we've done all that we can for right now. So let's see how it goes. It was a sunny and beautiful day in Giles. I could see many people on the beach from the tall windows of the hilltop mansion. I sighed, longing for the sun and a beer under the umbrella, but instead we were all inside in a room. At least I had a bottle of my favorite sparkling grape juice for refreshment. Lorenzo came before me, bowed and gestured towards the couch in front of the television. It's about to begin, Your Majesty. Of course, what he meant, the reason we were staying inside this beautiful day, was the Zeal referendum. Oh, okay. Thank you, Lorenzo. Your Majesty? Lucida bowed and sat down on the couch. Turn on the television. Ballot boxes were only 18% open. It was too early to say anything yet. We had to wait. What are your thoughts, Your Majesty? I will seal... I just want to get this over with and see Zeal's return. If you succeeded in this, your name will go down in the annals of history, Your Majesty. We chatted a bit about Lorenzo. We chatted a bit to Lorenzo about other pressing matters. An aide entered the room and leaned over to Lucida's ear. She got up and bowed once again. If you will excuse me, Your Majesty, it seems I received an urgent call. Yes, of course. Ballot boxes were 32% open. So far, around 53% voted not to join Wayland. Lucida opened the door to the room hurriedly. The door swung open. Your Majesty, I received important news from the foreign intelligence. It looks like we are on track to win the referendum. At the moment, most of the votes are on our side. In addition, we have evidence that Wayland is involved. We found their spies trying to affect the result and instigate violence. The interrogation showed that they are directly linked to Wayland. We must act, Your Majesty, and with haste. We have all the options prepared and ready to begin. But what would you have us do? We are already winning, are we not? Unless something changes in the next few hours. What should we do, Your Majesty? Whatever we do, time is of the essence. The TV host returned with the current numbers. Ballot boxes were 43% open. So far, around 53% voted not to join Wayland. I took a moment to think. Ballot boxes were 49% open. Your Majesty, we needed a decision. Ballot boxes were 52% open. Everyone was looking at me while I was trying to think. I felt overwhelmed by the weight. Suddenly, clarity. I knew what I had to do. We will not interfere with the referendum in any way. Yeah, we won't interfere with the referendum. Understood, Your Majesty. She sat back down on the couch. All of our attention was on the television as we watched the numbers change. Ballot boxes were 84% open. Result is almost certain now. Ballot boxes were 93% open, 98% open. The numbers on the screen sent a shiver down my spine. Referendum result was no, with 51% of the Zeal agreeing on the transfer of Zeal back to Rizia. Zeal was going to be returned. I had defeated Smolak. Congratulations, Your Majesty, a historic win. Toast with a glass of grape juice. We clinked our glasses and I had a sip. Oh my God. I got, hopefully, Zeal back. Oh God. Riding in Post-abdication as worshippers reach Saint City. I don't give a shit. As the religious march, now numbering over 100,000 participants, goddamn, reached Post-abdication, riots broke out in the city which is home to a significant Gokanis and Nasnuris community, saw religious violence destroy shops and public property, with at least 4 killed and several dozens injured. During the violence, one weapon depot was targeted, with worshippers successfully seizing multiple machine guns and other military-grade equipment. Great. Yep, don't have any authority to do anything about the provincial police or anything. I'm just gonna have to ride this out for now. I got money. Does anybody want me to buy anything now? Whew, boy, that was nerve-wracking. Nationwide destabilization imminent. Uh, the nation stands on the brink of nationwide destabilization. Driven by widespread protests and political upheaval, the government's response to these challenges will be critical in determining the country's future stability. The decision involves how to react to another round of mass protests, weighing options from enforcing strict control measures to offering concessions in an attempt to restore peace and order. I will offer future abdication. However, I'm offering future abdication because, I mean, we're going to be a democratic country, hopefully. So, give conciliatory speech and declare future abdication. Partially restored territorial integrity. All right, so yeah, I got that territory back. Hopefully, I can get Palais down there. And there. King Ramus shocks nation by announcing abdication. Our beloved King Ramus has announced that he will be abdicating by next year, the latest, passing on the throne to a yet unconfirmed successor. We at the Royal Herald are shocked, as you, reader, will continue to report as this story develops. We truly hope the king can still reconsider his decision, as he has done so much good for this country in the past years of his reign. I mean, maybe here and recently, but not so much before that. But we understand if he desires rest. And now for good news. Order has returned to the streets of Isa and Novasar at last. Okay. Largest demonstration in Rizian history. Nearly 3.5 million people marched in Port Dresden against our reign, making it the largest demonstration in Rizian history. A jubilant mood was reported as the announcement of our abdication reached the protesters. Oh, God. Territory of Zeal. Return of Zeal speech. As I walk alongside my mother through her dilapidated childhood home, the familiar scent of salt water and memories fill the air, prompting a single word to escape my lips. Zeal. Mother briefly paused when she reached her old bedroom, taking a moment to gaze at the familiar surroundings. I really do miss this place, despite the dismal state. It looks the same as it did when I was a little boy. As we walked outside the fenced perimeter, echoes of the past reverberate around us. After Zeal's handover to Waylon, I couldn't bring myself to return. It was too painful. Place a comforting hand on her shoulder. I understand, Mother. It was a difficult time for all of us. That's putting it mildly. Mother stopped before turning to face me. But now, thanks to you, we stand here on the brink of a new era. I'm eternally grateful for fulfilling what your father could not. Zeal's return to Rizia. It was my duty, Mother, for our kingdom and for our family. And you fulfilled that duty admirably, my dear. The distant tolling of a bell tower marked the passage of time, serving as a gentle reminder of the approaching celebrations. It's time to go. The festivities will be starting soon, and someone here is scheduled to give a speech. With a nod of acknowledgement, we left her childhood home behind. As we made our way through the city, the familiar sights greeted us, albeit with a sense of renewal. The streets bustled with activity, alive with the energy of the festival. The once damaged tenement buildings now stood proudly, freshly repainted to conceal the scars of the past. Before long, we passed a sign for Smolik Square, where the event was being held. You should have the square's name changed as soon as humanly possible. Believe me, I have every intention of doing so. Thank God. Stepping out of the car with Mother by my side, we were met with a sea of cheering faces, their palpable enthusiasm filling the air. Walking towards the center of the square, I couldn't ignore the solemnity of the moment. Where the former grandstand once stood, now stood a memorial to the victims of the bombing. Memories of that fateful day flooded back to me. The chaos, the screams, the confusion. It wasn't long before I was led to the podium to deliver my speech. But before I took the stage, Mother gently placed her hand on my arm, stopping me. Sorry about that. Had some food I ordered. Good luck. I appreciate the sentiment, Mother. May the divine light guide my words and action as I address our people. Luck is for weak, Mother. Thank you. I'll do my best to represent our kingdom with dignity and grace, as you have. A soft smile graced her lips before she gave me a light kiss on the cheek. I turned from her just before stepping on the stage and standing behind the podium. I was met by thunderous applause. I noticed Angelica Saison in the front row. She wore a deadly serious expression on her face. The applause subsided. I began to speak. Citizens of Zeal, let us revel in the glory of our triumph over the Iron Fist of Wayland. Let's not be too dickish about it. My esteemed subject today marks a momentous occasion in the history of our great realm. My subjects today brings a somber moment as we witness the return of Zeal, a land marred by suffering and division. The path before us was arduous, but in the end, we persevered. To the resilient people of Zeal who have endured the agony of separation with unwavering strength, I offer my deepest sympathies. Your resilience in the face of adversity is a beacon of light in these dark times. As you look back upon everything you endured, remember the solidarity that sustained you, for it was in your shared suffering that you found the strength to carry on. Cheers erupted once more. I thank the members of House Saison for their patience in awaiting the return of this part of their ancestral homeland. It is with joy in my heart that I announce the return of this land to its original custodians. Zeal shall belong to Brennus and House Saison once more. Angelica Saison stood and applauded fiercely. The audience was cheering slightly less loudly than before. I motioned for the crowd to quiet down. I had to finish my speech. With Zeal's return, we stand poised to achieve greatness beyond measure, as one people, one kingdom, united in purpose. Therefore, raise your voices in celebration, for today marks the dawn of a new era for our kingdom. May the sacrifices of those who fought for freedom serve as guiding lights, illuminating our path forward with resilience and hope, even amidst the darkest of shadows. As I finished my speech, the crowd erupted into cheers once more, their enthusiasm reverberating through the square. Local Zeal representatives approached me, holding a leather portfolio containing the legislation that would officially reunify Zeal with Rizia. Head held high, I accepted it, quickly scanning the referendum results before taking up the pen. Without a moment's hesitation, I signed my name, fulfilling a promise now complete. I glanced over at my shoulder. She had tears shining in her eyes. I glanced over at my mother, Jesus. She had tears shining in her eyes. Offering her a reassuring smile, I turned back to the crowd, the memory of their praise etched into my mind forever. All right, I have 8 authority now coming in, as we are now a unified country. And aside from weak traditions, that's pretty much all we have that's negative now. Zeal reincorporated into Brennus. The palace has announced that now that Zeal is returned to Rizia, administrative control over the area will be awarded to House Sazon, as the province is unified with Brennus once more, of which it was historically a part. House Sazon reacted in delight to this news, which was all but certain, thanking King Ramus for his generosity and his respect for the traditional division of the kingdom. The House assured it will work diligently to ensure incorporation into Brennus administrative structures. All right, the Republic of Kairut. Rizia's state in Alliance of Nation. Decision to determine Rizia's state in Alliance of Nations. The Alliance of Nations decision in the past have caused peril for Rizia. There are talks about whether we should leave the organization once and for all. The organization seems to have agendas that do not include our place in Marcopa. If we decide to leave the Alliance, however, there will be repercussions, however. We are already seeing repercussions from being a part of it. You know, as terrible as these people are, I am going to stay a part of it. Because, I mean, I don't have any other alliances. So at least this does, aside from Palais, which will become a part of us, we're pretty much alone. We don't have anybody else. We have fair relations with Swordland and stuff, and we had a deal that we worked out with Vogtland, but we can't really stand on our own. So we'll stay in the Alliance of Nations. All right, Nanta. Thousands of discarded ballots found. A few ballot boxes containing thousands of votes from Rizian majority areas of Nanta have been found in a field outside the city. But the previous administration of the town has rapidly evacuated to Wayland, thus evading responsibility. Evidence points at a deliberate attempt to rig the vote, of course. Zeal Unity Street Festival, a success. A hastily organized street festival celebrating the unity of Rizian and Wessex living in Nanta filled the streets of the city with life over the past 2 days. The festival celebrated the return of Zeal to Rizia, while at the same time celebrating Wessex life in the city and focused on promoting intercultural dialogue. Okay. Preparations begin for the King's reunification event. Preparations are currently underway for the upcoming reunification speech and signing ceremony led by the King. Tens of thousands turned out on the streets of Zeal to celebrate its return to Rizia. Monarchist banners were flown with Ramus' name being loudly shouted by the crowds. All right, that might have been an old one and I just kind of missed it. Reform conversation. The palace was eerily calm and quiet as I awaited for the key people whom I needed to support our reforms. They were about to arrive to discuss the planned constitution that would democratize Rizia. A representative from each noble house was invited. I shifted in my seat, scanning the room as the invitees, with Uncle Hugo at the front, walked in. He also brought my cousin with him, insisting that they would be representing the house tourists together. On my gesture, everyone walked toward their seats around the conference table. Thank you for coming. I trust you all received the draft and know exactly what we're doing here today. We did. They exchanged wary glances before taking their seats. I know all of you have your own personal opinions and concerns about this. This is the time for you to speak your minds, each and every one of you, so we can settle this once and for all. Very well. If I may, Manus cleared his throat and started speaking loudly, as if he was giving a speech in the House of Delegates. We are gathered here today because the Rizian people have made their demands clear. If Rizia is going to ensure its prosperity, it must first ensure the freedom and the well-being of its citizens. This renewed and written constitution represents the will of Rizia, not only those who have wealth and power, but the true spirit of the country. The changing times require us to adapt. We already have a parliament and elections. Neither a single person nor a council of appointed nobles should dictate the will of a vast country like Rizia alone. And the fact is, His Majesty agrees. The monarchy will stay in place, and the monarch will act as the head of state, but the true political power of the government will be left to the people, as it should be. We ask everyone to cooperate and support the implementation of this constitution. That's a lot to ask, isn't it? I agree. You're starting to sound dangerously like your father, Manus. Well, as long as we can reach an agreement here today, the RNC is ready to work with the RPP on this. That is great to hear. His Majesty already supports the Constitution. He has granted you all the favor of inviting you here to provide your input. So, I would like to give the word to King Ramus. I took a deep breath and looked around the table. When I acceded to the throne, I promised to focus on reforming this country. The time for that transformation has finally come. As a monarch, I have the power to ensure a peaceful transition by listening to the people, and I intend to use it. We all know what happened during the Century of Revolution. Our system is inefficient. Absolute rule within the hands of a few cannot manage the intricacies of the 20th century. Angelica Saison clicked her tongue in disapproval. If we join forces together, we can display to the world our unity and resilience. We have a choice to make, and according to it, we will go down in history as heroes or villains. They listened to me with no expressions on their faces. And what about the contents of this draft, Your Majesty? You're even abolishing the Royal Council. Regarding the contents, yes, the council will be abolished. Instead of the new head of government, the prime minister will form a cabinet and lead the ministers. I will remain the head of state and represent our kingdom in the international arena and protect our royal traditions. We will form an upper house consisting of the nobility. Each of the houses will continue to be represented there in the legislative branch. Interesting. We will also form a Supreme Court that will provide the necessary checks and balances to the legislative and executive branches. And as for the new government, I will appoint a transitionary prime minister to oversee the implementation of the reforms until the next election. And who would that be? As a compromise, I'd like to appoint Daria Derava as the head of the government to oversee the transitions. A barely disguised smile appeared on Daria's face. Your Majesty, we've all read the proposal, and the inspiring speech you gave just now clearly lays out the reasoning for it. I am supportive of your plans in the new constitution. The fuck? However, I'm curious to see what others think. Thank you for your support, Uncle Hugo. This means a great deal. Angelica swiftly cut in. You cannot sway my family with your House of Lords. It is purely symbolic and has no authority. I'm so sorry, Manus, but I believe this proposal doesn't show Rizia's royal houses the respect they deserve. Manus looked at her in disappointment. I'm surprised at you, Mother. His Majesty brought you back from exile, and this is the gratitude you show. If his intentions all along was to strip House Saison of its remaining power, he might as well have left me on Calicabiz. I will consider all of the points that were raised. I'm ready to compromise. Everyone's eyes were locked at me. We will give more power to the House of Lords. Any legislation would require the approval of both houses. Surely a step in the right direction, Your Majesty. Rico nodded in agreement. We will give each royal house a seat in the judiciary. Each house can appoint a justice of their choosing. Lucida nodded in approval. That sounds good. That's the most we will do. I will not make any more offers. Let's hear what everyone has to say. Very well. Let's resolve this. We can start with House Torres. Let's start with Rico. I vote in support of the new constitution. The fuck? I will follow my son with my support as well. House Azaro will be supporting it. As the representative of House Saison, I cast my support against it. That settles it then. Majority of the houses have agreed to support the reforms. Congratulations, Mr. Saison. Well done. We'll go forward with it very soon. Thank you. After exchanging handshakes, we ended the meeting. I would see the reforms through. That bitch. I'm very surprised she turned around and didn't support it. I guess she really didn't agree with what the stuff that her husband tried to do, and now her son. And I guess me, bringing her back from exile, making her Duke again, and giving her control of Zeal back was not enough. Well, I guess you can't have everything. Rizian Pelasian Unification Initiative. Duke Reinhard signals his desire to join Rizia. Oh yeah, after a series of successful meetings between Pelasian and Rizian foreign affairs, Duke Reinhard announced that the path to unification of Rizia and Palais is now open. He signaled his desire to join Rizia as a semi-autonomous region and requested us to establish a Ministry of Unification to work with their Pelasian counterparts to prepare both countries for a smooth and well-organized unification. And once again, fuck Lesbia. Agreed to unification plans. I mean, this is actually really good. I am shocked. Swordland extends congratulations. Swordish President Anton Rain has congratulated us on planned unification of Rizia and Palais. Rain highlighted the need for a unified people and praised us for achieving this through diplomatic means. All right, we have 3 newspapers. Palais to return to Rizia. Unbelievable. King Ramus has gone and done it. With Pelasian Duke Reinhard announcing that he is willing to join our great country, Palais will at last be Rizian again. To ensure a smooth unification process, a dedicated ministry will be set up. This way, the integration of the Pelasian system into ours can be handled smoothly. While the final details still need to be discussed, now is the time for celebration. Glovurius Axarizia. All right, modern constitution imminent. For the past few months, King Ramus has been diligently at work drafting up a revamped constitution, intending to bring the Kingdom of Rizia forward into the modern era. With the final signings, while the final signing still has to commence, the Constitution is rumored to include more democratic participation for the Rizian people, allowing everyone to express their support for the monarchy in more eloquent ways and making it easier for representatives of the people to bring forth their concerns to the king. Some more traditional supporters of the monarchy are rumored to take issue with the Constitution, but to what extent remains to be seen with all the details are unveiled. All right. Let's see. Rizia, Palais unification imminent. Both Rizian and Palasian authorities have agreed to unify the two countries, with Palais to join Rizia as a semi-autonomous region. This follows after the marriage of Duke Reinhard with the Rizian crown princess Vina Torres. The unification of both countries will mark a new era of politics in the region, with previous disputes such as the Oris gas field being a thing of the past now. All right, let's continue. And may the good times keep rolling. Chapter 4, Scylla Orica. All right, so we're into I completed chapter 3. Got my achievement for that. I have 8 authority. I have 4 budget. And with that, let us in our resolute commitment to enhancing national security and streamlining the machinery of law enforcement, we announced the abolition of provincial police forces. This move seeks to integrate various forces into one cohesive command. I kind of want to do that. Enact inheritance tax. Yeah, let me go ahead and do that. Piss off the nobility even more. Do I still have the option of electoral reform? I do actually. Huh. Costs 6th authority though. That would very much piss off the authorities. I mean the nobility. This decree abolishes the appointed delegates from provinces in the House of Delegates, establishing a direct election method for all 70 seats. I'm not going to do that. I'm guessing it's not going to matter right now. What should I do with this? I've been wanting to do this since the beginning of the game, though. And it's only going to cost me 2 budget. Our resolute commitment to enhance national security. Yeah, let's do that. All right, that cost me a nice chunk of my authority. And let's also do let's allow a free press. Okay, I'm fine with that. So now we have more news. Press restrictions lifted. Together with the Rizzian People's Party, the palace has unveiled a plan to gradually lift press restrictions. In a joint statement, representatives said that the king wants to encourage open debate and exchange of ideas in order to strengthen Rizia's capabilities on the battlefield of ideas. While we at the Royal Herald naturally have some reservations, we expect that this increase in press freedoms will eventually lead to more supporting our crown, as the added transparency offers everyone to gaze upon the great deeds of our monarchs is committed to. As more and more media outlets are popping up across the country, our newspaper will definitely fact check them and provide our readers with the insight of which are in line with our royal values and which are more mouthpieces for foreign powers. Police centralized. Chaos ends today. In order to streamline the efficiency of our police forces, the palace has announced the immediate disbanding of the provincial police. All branches of the police will now listen to a central command, allowing the kingdom to focus its forces wherever most needed. This measure is expected to finally end the chaos and lack of cooperation between police forces of different regions. We can't remain provincial minded in these times and must update our law enforcement principles in times of great global unrest in order to protect the king's citizens effectively. I wish I had that earlier, but unfortunately I didn't have it. So At least I have it now. The voice of Rizia. Media restrictions lifted. In accordance with a proposal spearheaded by the Rizian People's Party, restrictions on the freedom of press have finally been lifted, allowing many papers and radio stations to restart their operations across the country. Local police branches dissolved as power centralizes. In a blatant attempt to further concentrate power towards the Torres family, the king signed a new decree immediately disbanding provincial law enforcement and centralizing it into one central command operated from Port Drazen. While the palace cited efficiency as the driver for this decision, it has essentially killed off the concept of a police force close to the people. Up until today, police officers always operated in their local area, while now police forces from all over the country can be brought in to quell potential unrest or demonstrations against unjust policies imposed by the monarchy. So, if I would have had that before my abdication, would that have turned around and prevented it? Motherfucker. Grace congratulates us on reunification. The Grace organization has extended its congratulations for the imminent ascension of Palais to our kingdom, pointing to the increasing strength of a regional monarchy as a positive development. Yeah, about that. Signing the 1958 Rizian Charter of Fundamental Law. It was early in the morning. We were driving in a sleek black car adorned with the royal crest towards the House of Delegates. Together with the Parliament, we were going to declare the new constitution to the whole kingdom, appointing a new government and a head of state. It was a big day. I was told that the announcement made by Manus, thousands of people. I was told that after the announcement made by Manus, thousands of people had already gathered in the plaza near the house in anticipation of today's spectacle. The convoy then turned into a grand boulevard lined with quince trees and cutting through Port Drazen at its center, leading directly to the old town. The sidewalks were slowly coming to life, with street vendors preparing to showcase their wares and large groups of people walking towards the Parliament with Rizian flags in their hands. Titus, seated next to the driver, received the radio message. After listening to it, he turned his head towards me and pulled down the screen between us. Your Majesty, due to a massive gathering just outside the Parliament, we've been redirected toward the second entrance of the House of Delegates. We'll be proceeding to enter the complex from the Silver Gate within a couple minutes. Thanks for telling me. He bowed his head. As the convoy neared the House of Delegates, the crowds and their chants thickened. Banners fluttered in the breeze, praising me for my selfless support for democracy. As the car pulled up to the entrance of the House of Delegates, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the ceremony ahead. In a few seconds, the convoy came to a graceful stop in front of the steps of the house. Titus held the door for me as I stepped out. As I ascended the stairs, the door swung open, revealing the bare-bones interior of the house, a chamber that my father was forced to form, now ready to script a new chapter with my support. When I joined the crowd of people gathered inside the building, I was immediately greeted by Manus and Daria, who took me to the ministerial chambers. Followed by security, we entered the room. The new constitution of Rizia had been laid out on a table in the center. As we exchanged handshakes and formalities with each other, Manus leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Well, this is it, Your Majesty." My aides guided me to the table, pulled out a chair for me, and carried over a large leather box with golden etchings. After I was seated, two aides opened the box and held it out for me. Inside, a single pen was cushioned in red velvet. Journalists began snapping photos as soon as I grabbed the pen. Everyone looked at me in excitement as they waited for my signature. Today, we entrust our future to the hands of those elected to represent Rizia. It's a bold step, but one I believe is right. The room broke into applause as I signed the documents. That was it. With my signature, the new constitution was in place. I gave no thought to the significance of what I had just done. Instead, the simplicity of the process made me feel nervous, as if I expected someone to have intervened. After a long pause, I stood up. My next step was to declare the Constitution in public and appoint Rizia's new head of government. Daria and Manus then guided me through the corridors of the Parliament towards the main hall. Before we entered inside, the aides handed me a ceremonial silk sash with blue and golden stripes to be presented to the first Prime Minister. I will not let you or the kingdom down, Your Majesty. Actually, Miss Rava, I know I said I'd appoint you, but I've decided to appoint Manus instead. I believe this is for the best. That is an extraordinarily dickish move. You have my trust. Suddenly, the aides opened the doors and we entered the hall amid thunderous applause. Massive cameras were filming us as we walked inside. I stepped onto my podium as the applause echoed around me, the faces of the delegates alight with the promise of the future. I'll wait for the applause to stop. I mean, this is probably going to be my last speech. I stood there for a whole minute as the delegates applauded vigorously. When the hall fell silent, I took a deep breath. My fellow citizens, it is with a heart full of hope and a mind conscious of the demands of the democratic movement that I address you on this momentous occasion. Change, as we know, is the only constant in the march of time. It is the harbinger of progress, the catalyst of innovation, and the doorway to new possibilities. The world around us is changing. Nations are awakening to the clarion call of freedom and representation, recognizing that the true strength of a country lies in the collective will of its citizens. We are gathered here not to witness the diminishing of the crown, but to celebrate the empowerment of the people. As soon as I said that, the aides brought the Constitution and displayed it to the delegates, prompting more applause. In embracing these reforms, I am mindful of the profound responsibility that comes with leadership, the responsibility to put the welfare of the nation and its people above all else. This act of endorsing this Constitution is about ensuring that the legacy we leave for future generations is one of a society that values dialogue over decree, consensus over command, and the common good over individual gain. Let the pages of history remember this day as the moment when we chose not just to change, but to evolve, not just to promise, but to deliver, not just to dream, but to achieve. Honorable delegates, I now entrust my power to you, the elected voice of our people. To the future, a future that we will build together on the solid foundation of this new charter. Among massive applause, I grabbed the silk sash. In appointing a new head of government, we turn a page in our history, embracing a governance of the people, by the people. The room hanged on my every word. The air was thick with anticipation. I appoint Daria Durava as the head of government. Daria rose from her seat among the delegates, her expression one of confidence. A murmur of disapproval rippled through the chamber as she made her way to the podium. I put the sash and the pin on her. Thank you, Your Majesty. Another round of applause broke out, this time for much longer. I'll take a step back. I took a step back, allowing her to take center stage. Your Majesty, delegates, and fellow citizens, I am deeply honored by the trust placed in me. This is a momentous day, not only for me, but for our great kingdom. Together, we will embark on a journey of transformation, grounded in the principles of tradition, equity, and prosperity for all. We will face challenges, no doubt, but in our unity, we will find strength. The delegates rose in a standing ovation. I promise to represent the interests of the Rizian people and uphold the Rizian Charter of Fundamental Law during my tenure as Prime Minister. I swear that I will serve my duty to the Crown with diligence until the upcoming elections. Thank you. Glovurius Axa Rizia. After taking the applause in, together we walked towards the balcony to face the crowd that had gathered outside. It was done. My signature, the House approval, and now a broadcast declaration. It was a point of no return. You know, in a lot of ways, it's very fitting that I'm turning around and abdicating the throne. I mean, we're going to have a new government. We're going to have a new queen. So, I mean, it's going to all be just wild. Very young queen. She has plenty of time to steer this country into a new future. So, it's going to be great. Smolek Square renamed. The nobles of House Sazon hosted a grand celebration to inaugurate Fido Square, reinstating the name by which it was known prior to its renaming as Smolek Square under Wessex rule. There was a parade honoring His Majesty's role in restoring zeal to its original ruling house. Thousands celebrate new constitution. Pro-democracy campaigners from across the political spectrum gathered in Port Drazen, celebrating the signing of the new constitution. With a large rally held outside the House of Delegates, speakers of both the RVP and the RNC were present at the rally, a rare show of unity in support of a constitutional Rizia. Now that I think about it, has there ever been a situation where the first head of state was a woman? Very curious to know that. New Constitution signed. Darava PM. His Majesty has signed a new Constitution, with the signing ceremony taking place in the now empowered House of Delegates. The text, titled The Rizian Charter of Fundamental Law, includes increased powers for the House of Delegates and, for the first time in Rizian history, a Prime Minister as head of government, a role that will be filled by RNC's Daria Darava. Criticisms of the Constitution has been raised by more traditional royalists groups, saying the post of Prime Minister is a disgrace that undermines the divine right of kings. Meanwhile, the Rizian National Coalition has proclaimed its happiness with the premiership of Daria Darava, proclaiming that the King's party will continue to dutifully serve King Ramis. You know, I do wonder if in other iterations of this, where maybe you make Manus the head of state, and if you have more power and such, can you change the name of the head of states? You know, can it be a premier? Can it be a general secretary or something like that? I'll be very curious to see that. And that's something that I would actually like in the future, if you could possibly decide what the actual title would be. That might be a big ask, though. Dissolution of the Royal Council. Hugo, Alina, Lorento, and I gathered once more in my council chambers. These were my closest advisors. One was my blood relation. The other two had served my father and myself for so long that they felt like family. Now I had to say goodbye. I turned towards my counselors. My friends. Thank you for staying by my side all these years. I know it was not always easy. Should you wish to run for elected office under Rizia's new government structure, I will support you. Thank you anyway for the opportunity, Your Majesty. It has been a pleasure serving 3 generations of the Torres family. I hope the new government will have more success than I did in building the foundations for a profitable future. And I'm sorry that my hopes of making Rizia a great energy powerhouse did not work out in the end. You have most decidedly strayed from the path followed by Queen Liza and King Valero. But I wish you the best of luck in this new direction. I share Elena's sentiments, Your Majesty. For my part, I'm glad to have played a small role in the reunification of Palais and Rizia. Truly a historic feat. May the change in government bring our kingdom new possibilities for international partnerships. Hugo's arms were folded. He didn't speak. I'm sorry, Hugo, but you must understand why I did what I did. I do understand perfectly well. I supported your new constitution in our talks before, and I do now. I just hope you will continue to seek my advice when you need it. You still have a valuable role to play, Your Grace. We all do. I thank you for your reassurance. He and Elena and Lorenzo stood up. I shook each of their hands. Please feel free to visit the palace anytime. My now ex-counselors left, closing the doors behind them. Where's Lucida? At the beach with Axel Reinhardt. Well, he might not like this. Reunion seemed to be around the corner. Preparations were complete, our teams were working together, and the marriage seemed to be working out really well. It wasn't a distant dream anymore. The only thing that was left was Duke Reinhardt's complete approval. Ever since Vina and Axel's marriage, they have constantly been traveling between Palais and Port Drazen, and the Pelagian authorities have been working with our government to realize the unity between our lands. On one of those visits, we decided to take a break and go visit my hometown in Monkeys, together with Vina and Axel. We were on the picturesque beach of Monkeys, sitting in front of a cafe run by my family in a secluded corner that hasn't been invaded by Swedish tourists yet. We watched the Swedish Sea with Axel, who was seated next to me. It's refreshing being here, away from the court's rigidity. Life's simpler rhythms have a charm of their own. My eyes were on Vina as she was taking a stroll on the beach, talking to the locals she encountered. She seemed to be immensely popular with the people here. Look at her, Axel. I feel like she's more at home here than in any palace or court. Maybe so. She definitely has a spirit too vast for the confines of stone walls. She's an amazing person, Ramis. She has a kind heart and she has big ideas. I respect her a lot. To be honest, she's been instrumental with her support of these preparations, you know. Keep her close to you. I'm really happy to hear that. Oh man, I meant to say something else. Damn it. Just then, the waiter of the cafe approached us to ask what we would like to drink. Axel turned to him and spoke. What is the recommendation of the house? The waiter quickly brought a bottle of Earlery maroon whiskey as a recommendation and started talking about how smoky and delicious it was. Oh, I don't want whiskey. If I wanted something strong, I'd go with something Volgish or Gaumish. He laughed as he dismissed the bottle with a wave of his hand. I'll have a Contivo if you have any. He looked at me to see if I would have the same. I'll just have water, thank you. The waiter nodded and brought us our drinks a few minutes later. Cheers. We clanked our glasses and took a sip from our drinks. You know, my brother is quite mad about my decision to go with this marriage. My family sees this as a betrayal of House Reinhardt. Let alone all these talks of unification. It's making my family quite hostile towards me. I know how difficult it is to go against your own family, Axel, and you still did. I respect that. Thank you. It is tough. But worry not, this will not affect our cooperation. I'm more concerned about the Rizian side. And how is the new charter working out for Rizia? I see that the new government is already preparing for the elections. That was a bold step, abolishing the power of your council and empowering the parliament just like that. Hmm. Hmm. Times are changing, Axel. The days of kings leading armies on the battlefields are long gone. Absolutely. Besides, governing Rizia is a much larger task than Palais. I can't even imagine having direct control over such a large swath of land. He took a large sip from his glass. So, Your Majesty, I think it's time we strengthen our bonds and achieve this long-awaited unity. I've had some concerns, but I'm not against the reunification in principle. Tell me, can I trust that Rizia will take care of Palais as its own and respect its unique culture? Hmm, of course, that goes without saying. Good. He looked at me with a huge smile on his face. Let's do it. I will approve it when I'm in Palais, and I will swear my fealty to the Rizian kingdom. He raised his glass. To our unity. Hmm. To new beginnings, and to the enduring strength of the bonds forged not by crowns, but by hearts and shared dreams. He motioned for an embrace, and we hugged. If you will excuse me now, I want to join Vina at the beach before the sun sets. It was finally real. Palais was coming back home. All right, so Palais is going to be a part of Rizia now. God. Calming of the capital chaos. Dissipating dissent in the capital. The once massive throng of protesters in the capital has begun to wane, their fervor diminishing as the momentum of their movement ebbs. This shift in the tide of unrest seemingly signaling a return to a more peaceful state offers a moment of respite in our beleaguered nation. The streets, once scenes of conflict and discord, are now quieting, suggesting a potential path back to normalcy. Time to celebrate. All right, so now that everything is calmed down, thank God. Okay. Let's see, we have a unity column erected on Grand Market Square. A large unity column is being built on Remis's Grand Market Square to celebrate the unification of Palais and Rizia. The column bears the insignia of all Rizian royal houses, including that of the Reinhardts, with a golden Taurus bull adorning the top. Vina and Axel finished tour in front of Unity column. Vina and Axel have finished their grand unity tour of Palais and Remis, the province's second largest city. The couple unveiled the newly constructed victory column to enthusiastic cheers from the crowd. Gulf of Palais turns into Sea of Color, in a sight reminiscent of the Gaumish revolutionary fishing boat parades. The Gulf of Palais has filled with ships waving Rizian, Palaisian, and House Taurus banners to celebrate the newly found unity between our people, turning into a sea of color. Thousands of onlookers gathered at the waterfront in souls to witness the spectacle. Okay. Local authorities guarantee protection of Pelagian culture. Following the concerns by the ethnic Pelagian population in Zeeks, a city which is almost 40% Rizian, that their reunification will turn the city into a culturally Rizian one, local authorities have guaranteed that policies will be put into place to ensure the cultural balance of the city is maintained. Vina greeted two massive crowds amidst unification celebration. Princess Vina appeared on the balcony of Castle Reinhardt, together with her husband Axel, to thunderous applause from the hundreds of thousands that gathered in the Pelagian capital to celebrate their country's unification with Rizia. In the coming days, Vina and Axel will visit more Pelagian cities together, showcasing the newly found unity between Rizia and Palais. All right, that's everything there. What else do we have here? Morning in the palace. The morning sun streamed through the windows of my chambers as I slowly opened my eyes. Lucida was standing by my bedside. She had an unusually intense expression on her face. Something wrong, my wife? She hesitated nervously. You're met Ramus. There's something I need to tell you. I think I'm pregnant. What? Since when? A few months, maybe. We've both been so busy lately. I wasn't even sure how you would take the news. She hesitantly took my hand, resting the other on her abdomen. You needn't have worried, my love. I'm the happiest man in the world right now. She smiled and wrapped her arms around me. I love you, King Ramus. I cherish and respect you deeply. Jesus. I love you, Queen Lucida. She kissed me on the forehead. Will you come with me to the palace doctors? Maybe they can already determine the sex. First things first. Titus, get it here. I'm going to be a father again. My bodyguard entered the room. He cast an eye over myself and Lucida, then reached out to shake my hand. This explains a lot. Congratulations, my king. No time for chit-chat. We gotta get Lucida to the doctor. Right away. Titus trailed a short distance behind as we walked down the palace corridors towards the medical wing. Now that you've done away with the Royal Council, we don't have a reason for secrecy anymore. We can announce the marriage and pregnancy right away. The kingdom may be changing, but the royal family will be forever. She squeezed my hand. Yes. In the medical wing, we were received immediately by a group of nurses. Lucida was rushed into a side room that contained Rizia's most state-of-the-art ultrasound equipment. After less than half an hour in the waiting room, the doctors called me in and told me the news. My wife was just over 4 months along, and we were having a boy. Oh, shit. I mean, good, but not. Announcement of the prince-to-be. I stood with Vina on the back terrace of my palace in Monquise. Gray clouds hung low on the horizon. A strong wind was picking up, and waves crashed violently on the rocky cliffs below us. The same kind of storm that had almost killed my daughter all those years ago. I had come so close to losing her. Now I had just told her she might lose everything. A television crew was waiting in the front sitting room. They were awaiting my official statement announcing my marriage and my soon-to-be-born son, the future king of Rizia, at least as the law would have it. I had met Vina here to tell her privately before informing the world. As I looked at her stony expression, I wondered if I had made a mistake. So I'm to be a half-sister. I suppose congratulations are in order. She ran a hand along the terrace's gold-plated railing. I know that this is a lot to take in. Yes, it is. I've based my entire life on the idea that I was the future queen of Rizia. I spent so many hours attending council meetings. I gave up the chance to be with the man I loved. She wrapped her kerchief tighter around her head as a gust of wind blew. Tell me, Father, what was it all for? Nothing is decided yet. You may still get your chance to be queen. She blinked. Really? Yes, Lucida and I are in love and having a child together. Whether that child takes the throne doesn't matter to us. I know what a good monarch you'll be. You deserve it. She gave me a grateful half smile. But what about House Azaro? I'm sure they'll be furious if their heir isn't named successor, even if the throne is only symbolic at this point. Hmm. Hmm. Leave me to deal with the Azaros. Speaking of which, her head whipped towards the door. Lucida had come to fetch me. It had been a few months since her doctor's appointment in Port Drazen, and her belly was beginning to curve outward. Vina curtsied politely. Hello, Duchess Azaro, or rather, Your Majesty. Please, Lucida. Please, Lucida will do just fine. I take it your father told you the good news. They'll be ready for the announcement in 5 minutes, Ramus. I don't need 5 minutes. I know what I'm going to say. My wife and my daughter both smiled with confidence, then looked at each other suspiciously. Let's go then. Are you... Lucida, are you really going to be pissed about this? I understand that I'm definitely going against the law here, but the throne doesn't even matter anymore. It's just a symbolic thing. The normally spacious sitting room of Palais Torres had been filled with lighting and camera equipment, all pointed at the purple velvet divan against the back wall. Above it hung portraits of Ana Azaro and Ariana Torres. Lucida and I were seated. An assistant quickly refreshed our makeup. Vina was watching intensely from an armchair in the corner. The camerawoman counted down from 5. It was time for my royal address. My friends and country people. Allow me to present for the very first time Queen Consort Lucida Azaro. I shall never forget Princess Consort Lena, but Queen Lucida and I are happy to welcome new love into Palais Resna. There's more good news. We are having a child, a baby boy. Lucida placed a hand on my shoulder and smiled for the cameras. Thaddeus. His name shall be Prince Thaddeus II. Lucida's smile grew wider. I paused for dramatic effect. Though I am overjoyed at becoming a father for the second time, I cannot neglect the inspiration my daughter, Vina, has been to this country and to me. With that in mind, choosing an official successor was not an easy decision for me. I'm so sorry, Lucida, but my daughter will reign, even if I have to die to do so. I hereby declare an exception to the law. Princess Vina Reinhardt will remain my successor. Lucida's grip tightened on my shoulder. Her nails practically pierced through my suit jacket. From a very young age, my daughter has possessed the determination and compassion that it takes to rule this country. I have no doubt she will be an excellent queen. I could tell my wife was having trouble keeping a calm demeanor. I had to wrap this up. Your queen and I are so excited to begin this new chapter. All glory to your current and future queens. The recording light switched off. Oh, God. Oh, this may not end well for me, but I want my daughter to rule. She deserves it. Like I said, if I have to die in order to assure that, I will. I think this could be a good country with the people we have in power. A warm welcome to our new prince. In a televised announcement, our beloved monarch Ramis Taurus and new queen consort Lucida Azaro joyously informed the nation of the impending birth of their son, Thaddeus II. The revelation was tempered with controversy as our king also announced that Princess Vina, not Thaddeus II, would succeed him on the Rizian throne. We look forward to the day we welcome our new prince, while at the same time wondering what will happen to the lineage of our cherished monarchy. Professor Greg's royal gossip, the king's new family. Anyone who's been paying attention could see the signs of romance blossoming between our unwed king and the equally eligible bachelorette Lucida Azaro. So it came as no surprise when His Majesty revealed to the nation that the Azaro heiress was now his lady wife. The real bombshell, though, was that the two were having a son. The double announcement will, of course, invite room for speculation. Just when was this shotgun wedding, before or after the moment of conception? But it's indisputable that when baby Thaddeus II is born, he'll be the child of married nobles, making him 100% legitimate princeling. What does the older Taurus sibling think about all this? Princess Vina could not be reached for comment. Oh, God. Drestination. I entered the grand reception hall to make my address to the nation speech. The hall, usually echoing with the rare footsteps of courtiers, was transformed into a noisy chaos as the filming crew set up cameras, lights, and microphones in place. I was seated at the room's center behind a grand antique desk of dark mahogany, its surface cleared except for a single neatly arranged stack of papers. After the makeup crew brushed various powders on my face, I reviewed my notes briefly. I would soon announce my abdication. I took a deep breath, my gaze lifting to meet the lens of the camera. And then, with a nod from the director, the red light blinked on and I began to speak. My esteemed countrymen and women, it gives me great pleasure and great sorrow to address you for what may be the last time. It is important to let go and allow new leadership to take the reins. Throughout my reign, I've been uplifted and sustained by the knowledge that your thoughts and prayers were with me. And I want to take this moment to first look back at our achievements. I looked directly into the camera. When we started on this path, some did not believe we could take it to the end. We proved them all wrong. Our reunification with Palais marks a new chapter, not defined by lineage or title, but by shared aspirations and collective well-being of our people. So let us celebrate our reunion. Let us celebrate what we've been wanting for a very long time. What? Okay, I didn't say that. Apparently, I said while we welcome the Pelagian region, we must navigate this transition with care, ensuring that the integration honors the legacy and desire of all our people. Therefore, I'd like to take this moment to congratulate the marriage between Vina Torres and Axel Reinhardt. But of course, there's more to celebrate. Zeal's agreement is now history. We are reunited with our brothers and sisters once again. And thus, the great unification is complete. This is not merely the reclamation of lands, but the restoration of our heritage, the reunion of our families, and the rekindling of our hope. On top of our success abroad, we also accomplished much inside our political system. With the new constitution, we established a new system of democracy by giving the House of Delegates the lawmaking power. Times of old monarchs who led their soldiers on the battlefield are closed. I will not lead you into battle. I will not give you laws or administer justice, but I can do something else. I can give you my heart and my devotion to this peninsula and to all the peoples of our kingdom. I ask each one of you to give your support to our Prime Minister, who's not just a guardian of transition, but a beacon of progress, empowering you to take the reins of your destiny through the ballot box. As we reflect upon the decade behind us, we are reminded of the myriad ways in which our kingdom has evolved, adapted, and grown. The recent expansion of our energy infrastructure, including the development of new pipelines, has significantly increased the flow of energy, both within our borders and to our neighbors. Moreover, our recent negotiations with the Republic of Morella have culminated in no changes to the MITS operations. I am proud to declare that this accord not only secures our rightful share of the resources, but also highlights Rizian ambition in protecting its national interests. We abolished state censorship and ensured free speech, free press, so that Rizian can exercise their right to free speech. My beloved people of Rizia, as we stand at the crossroads of history, reflecting on the journey behind us and gazing onto the promise of tomorrow, we are reminded of the enduring strength and resilience that define us. Yet every season has its time, and every chapter must give way to the next. For it is the turning of pages that a story finds its depth and meaning. I took a deep breath. It is with a heart heavy with emotion, yet buoyant with hope for our future, that I announce my decision to abdicate the throne of Rizia. In this moment of transition, I am comforted and elated to affirm that the crown will pass to a most worthy and capable successor, Princess Vina. Her dedication to our people and her visionary outlook for the future of Rizia make her the ideal steward of our nation's legacy and promise. In closing, I offer my deepest gratitude for the privilege of serving as your king. The challenges we have surmounted together and the dreams we have nurtured will forever remain with me. Long live Rizia, and may the reign of Queen Vina usher in a new dawn of glory and achievement for our cherished kingdom. I nodded at the camera crew. They stopped filming. This was the point of no return. Releasing the reins of power had been a challenge both for you and for the nation, yet it was a threshold crossed and a door shut behind you. As one chapter ended, another began, not just for you, but for Rizia too. In the weeks that followed, a sense of a reborn Rizia lingered, marked by new leadership, new attitudes. You felt a sense of relief wash over you. Queen Vina Torres, your daughter and the new monarch, quickly endeared herself to the populace, earning the affectionate title of People's Queen. Shortly after her coronation, she initiated a sweeping campaign to eradicate poverty that proved both popular and effective. Gratefully, she acknowledged your contributions to the nation. Long live the new queen. You watched the ceremony from seclusion. Death threats had begun arriving shortly after your abdication, and security advised you to keep a low profile. You and your mother absconded to an estate on the outskirts of Port Drazen, waiting for the news that you were safe at last. Then democracy arrived in the kingdom. Rizia's first general election was a remarkable event. Achieving a 60% turnout amidst recent tensions, Prime Minister Dari Darava triumphed, resonating with the kingdom's nationalist pulse. You wrote her a letter congratulating her on her win. At long last, the security threats diminished, granting you the freedom you'd longed for. You reunited with Lucida, grateful that you hadn't yet missed the birth of your son. Your life was an open door. Vina wasted no time visiting, sharing how well things were going with her and Axel Reinhardt in Palais. She extended an invitation to your mother and you to build a life together there. You decided, yeah, I'll accept her offer and journey to the Grand Duchy. You and your mother were given an exquisitely lavish room at the castle with Axel, Vina, and the rest of the royal household. It felt like the luxury of the old days, and spending time around Vina felt good. Axel came to you to ask for a favor to join a party and talk to some Arcasian diplomats. Sure. The ambassador, Nicholas Rabentor, and the foreign minister, Laurent Martel, were present at the evening. Axel introduced them to you, and you charmed them with your tales from your reign, offering intriguing royal insights. Lucida's discomfort with the Pelagians deepened as her pregnancy advanced. You did your best to support her regardless. The involvement of Vina and Estella drew your family closer. It was good to spend time with loved ones. After a long, intense wait, the moment arrived. Late at night, Lucida woke you up to tell you the baby was coming. At 11:13 a.m., your son opened his eyes to his first morning in an instant. Everything else faded. Only this moment mattered. A year later, Vina and Axel visited, bringing a delightful surprise. Their daughter, Lena. In that moment of familial joy, you guided both children with wisdom and love. Over the years, your societal prominence waned. The 8 years you spent as king faded in your memory, crowded out by your many other life experiences. During a quiet day at home, you discovered, a letter from your daughter and son, their words filled with love and praise. The note was touching, a reminder of the bonds you'd fostered. At this stage of life, it felt best to spend more time with your family, cherishing every moment. As time marched on, you aged with the wisdom and contentment these choices brought. Throughout the years, your name was spoken with fondness and respected by those you cared about, a testament to the enduring impact of your life and the love you shared. And there was finally peace. Well, there you go. I became Ramus the Reformer. Okay. And as far as the political scale go, I was on the capitalist side. Definitely wasn't my intention. What? Oh, well, yeah, I guess it does make sense that he's very statist. So, yeah. Hugo also was, too. I was very surprised Hugo actually sided with me, because I was for sure thinking Hugo was just extraordinarily suspicious and he was going to be, a stab in the, he was going to stab me in the back or something like that. I was just sure that was going to happen. I never met Thaddeus. So there you go. And yeah, I didn't really have anything, didn't have too many other interactions with my wife. So there's that. But yeah, Vina is, immediatism. Let's see, between 1950 and 1958, 343,194 people entered employment and 12,129 businesses were formed. Millions of Rizians and Zeal officially reintegrated back to their homeland, and thousands of foreigners left the territory. The province of Alankiris faced 4 billion RG worth of public property damage due to violent protests. 12,312 foreigners and anti-monarchists were beaten by Suamana members. Jesus. 2,345 women joined political life. 582,421 women have joined the workforce. 142 billion RG worth of foreign investments arrived. FC Port Drazen gained 34,212 new fans. 19.4 million people participated in the new elections to form a democratic government. 203,124 foreigners have migrated to the country, and 59 million tons were mined from the mid zone by Rizia. Well, are you sure you want the end? Let's do it. Oh my God. I cannot believe I made it through that. Jesus Christ. That was tough. That was very, very tough towards the end, but there was a way out of it in the end, and we managed to make it through. And, again, that's one of the things that I really do like about Suzerain is that even in some of the very dark moments of the game, they seem to still kind of give you, ways to maneuver through it. They're very realistic consequences in a lot of cases. I did get a little frustrated with certain points of the game, very much so towards the middle part of the game. It's very different from the main game in that sense, because in the main game, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of negotiations, a lot of promises made and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily about the funds per se. It's about the balancing of the Constitution, really focusing how you word things and stuff like that. Whereas this is a very different experience. It's more of a actual true management, because you have to manage the economy. You have to manage your armed forces. You have to, manage the public life in general, because you have that power. No one else does. So it's a very different type of thing. And I remember thinking that at the beginning of the game, I was very frustrated with the royal decree system, because I felt like it wasn't very clear to a certain degree. But then the more I played it, I really did like it because it gave you that isolated feel of being a monarch. It really did. And with that isolated feeling or whatnot, you really had to consider things. You really kind of got into the, almost Game of Thrones like politics of like, I'm having to put these people against them, or is this is gonna, favor my family and stuff like that. But in the end, it turned out very well. I would even go so far as to say that I enjoyed this probably more than I enjoyed the main game of Suzerain with Swordland. Swordland was great, but this was a lot better. Now, having said that, I do have certain criticisms about like the royal decree system and stuff like that. I haven't gotten to the military part. I actually managed to avoid it or whatnot, so I don't have any opinions on that. But as far as the royal decree system goes, I do feel like the one problem I have with the royal decree system was that it made me focus more on stat management stuff. And, that's not necessarily a problem, but I just feel like because you focus more on stat management a lot more, it kind of makes you, take away, it kind of takes something away from actually role playing as a head of state and having your ideals and stuff like that. Now, I will say it does give you, at least for me, it gave me that crash of reality where I had to focus on actually achieving things, and I had to actually, focus on, what's gonna keep me elected, what's gonna keep me in power and stuff like that. And that's a hard thing to do, but that's the reality of being in power, and that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. But I would in the future like a little bit more balancing towards that, because again, it did make me very detached. And also, I kind of felt like it was a little too much. Trying to manage, the military. I mean, thank God I didn't have a military. Again, I can't comment on the military system because I didn't use it. But, just the thought of, if I went into some type of war with that military, which Lucida said was ass over and over again, it will be very hard for me to imagine a scenario where that will go well. I've heard, mixed things from people. I've heard some people say that it's actually very easy and they managed to win even with, the sorry state of affairs of their military. I've heard other people say that, it's complicated. So, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I feel like that was probably the other criticism that I had, that it's so much to manage. I feel like that maybe if you kind of take that back, maybe not focus so much into both of these systems, maybe either focus all towards the royal decree system or focus all towards the military, then I think, it would be a lot more balanced. It does give you a lot of option as far as, of course, selling things and stuff like that. But I kind of wish there was almost a way to like automate certain things. Like maybe you could turn around and say, hey, Lucida, you take over the military section and stuff like that. And even, even with the decrees as far as, things diplomatically, you could just say, hey, Lorento, you turn around and you handle all the diplomacy and stuff like that, because I'm going to manage the military, especially if you have like a military background. You want to be more hands on with certain things and stuff. So, or maybe even, you can be like, hey, as far as the economy goes, I'll manage the economy. You guys manage everything else and stuff like that. And I'm just going to focus on this because, again, it was just too much. It's a lot of things that you have to manage, and it's too much to focus on. Whereas I felt like, I kind of wanted to focus on internal stuff and diplomacy and stuff like that. Maybe if there could be something in the beginning where you could just, you're going to focus on diplomacy, or if you want to try to dip your hands into all things, sure, you can dip your hands into all things. But again, it just felt like a little too much. And maybe some of these should have been implemented into later DLCs and stuff. But again, overall, I do think it worked. I'm still going to cheat like hell because it's just what I do, because I do love this game. I do like to see all the crazy things that I can do. But again, it was a lot. But that's my only criticism, honestly. I think the writing was even better than the main game. The main game is great. I say this over and over again. I think this may be the greatest game I have ever played politically, the greatest political game I've ever played, because I've played political games before that had, good stuff in it, but they had wonky aspects about it. I've mentioned this before. I played the very first political game I played was Geopolitical Simulator. And it was very buggy, very broken, but it was a good political simulator if you were trying to get into it. If you wanted campaign stuff, President Infinity and the series that preceded before that, very good with managing, campaigns and stuff like that, but it doesn't have that soul in it because at the end of the day, it's just stats. It's just stats. It's like playing fantasy football to a certain degree. Like, yeah, it's okay, but it doesn't have a whole lot of soul to it at the end of the day. And then, of course, there have been more recent games like, the political process and stuff like that. Again, a very good game as far as a political sim goes. But again, as far as the soul goes, it's still very stat based and things like that. The closest thing that you're going to get to a game like this is like Democracy 4. And even then, and I love Democracy 4. I think it's a great game. But at the end of the day, it still kind of lacks something. It lacks that soul that Suzerain has. And Suzerain just is so good. Like, it really is. You feel like you are president. You feel like you are the king. You care for these people. I cared for my daughter so much, and I felt so bad because I accidentally, brought up that idea that she could, that she should turn around and marry Axel. I really wanted her to marry the love of her life. And even at the end, I was so worried. And at the end, I still felt like I would rather die and let my daughter turn around and ascend this throne than to turn around and deny her because of whatever selfish ambitions that Lucida had at the end of the day. Because I cared about these people. I've spent 8 years with these people in this game. And there was so many moments that I had with them. And I have that connection. And you just don't get that with a lot of games. You don't get a lot of good interactive games that have that great of a story, let alone a political game. So definitely, I think the Rizia DLC, 10 out of 10. And even more so, this is, still, it's hard to even bring this up. $10. And it was actually $8 because I bought this before it came out. $8 for what is essentially Suzerain 2. That is insane. There are games that, are political simulators that will cost you 50, 60 bucks right off the bat. This is Suzerain 2 with as much dialogue as the second game, as the main game, and it was 10 bucks. That is ridiculous, so hey, if they want to pay more, and if they want to raise the prices in the future, I completely understand. This is a steal. So to get Suzerain and to get Suzerain Kingdom of Rizia, I definitely encourage it. If you like politics, if you're even remotely interested in politics, play Suzerain, play the Kingdom of Rizia. It's 10 out of 10. I can't knock it at all. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the game. I hope everyone enjoyed this playthrough. I've really enjoyed speaking with everybody and getting all the, the new subscribers and stuff like that. Again, I post these videos because I like to play these games, not necessarily because I'm trying to get 1 million subscribers or anything like that. But I love talking to everyone and I love the interactions and stuff like that. I get so many, wonderful comments and stuff like that. And I've met so many wonderful people online, through this game. And I really do appreciate all the views and everything that has come with that. So thank you so much to everyone that has watched and everyone that has joined over the last week or so. And I hope you stay around and stick around because I will be playing more of this. This is going to come out on a Friday. As I said, I'm going to release some polls over what's going to be done in the future. The first poll is going to be really quick. It's going to be basically which direction do you want me to take Swordland in? Do you want me to take it into an, Arcasian type of playthrough, a Volgish playthrough, or do you want me to take it through a, kind of a neutral, just making deals with everybody in the nation, and also how to deal with Runeberg and such? I'm kind of leaning more towards trying to make Swordland, pro Vogsland. And, of course, trying to get them to get some territory from Runeberg and screw them up and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. But again, we'll see how it goes. And then, of course, after that, it will be playing the Kingdom of Rizia again, but in this playthrough, I am going to be OP as hell. I am going to have, you know, ridiculous amounts of energy, ridiculous amounts of authority, ridiculous amounts of budgets. And if I can find the stat, I'm also going to change the military stuff. I'm going to have the biggest military I can possibly have, and I'm going to change how much I'm getting per turn. So I can have, so I don't have to worry about that stuff, and we can just play around and see what happens in all the most ridiculous circumstances or whatnot. So, you know, that's pretty much the plans going forward or whatnot. But again, that's the Kingdom of Rizia. I loved every minute of it, even the hard moments. I was so frustrated in certain moments, and there was so many moments I really wanted to cheat. I'm so glad I didn't. And I just turned around and made it through. And I made it through with a lot of help from you, the fans, and you, of course, the watchers who've been watching this video. So again, thank you so much. So if you like the video, like the video. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe. I have a lot of things on the channel, and I will have many more things in the future. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave it in the comment section, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So for the last time in this Kingdom of Rizia playthrough, thank you for watching. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, commenting, and everything else in between. And I'll see you in the next one. See you.